Yeah. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to round 2 of the 10 race evening calendar for Simsport Racing ACC Season 3. My name's Alex Goldschmidt, and alongside me, I'm proud to welcome into the virtual commentary booth from Simsport Racing himself, Steve Proudly joins me. Good evening, Steve. How are you?
Good evening, Alex. I'm very well, thank you, and looking forward to an exciting race this evening.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, greetings and salutations from a virtual Silverstone Grand Prix circuit. 3.66 miles in length, that's 5.890 kilometres, and with lap times around the 1 minute 57 mark, we're going to have a 2-hour race here this evening. But Steve, firstly, we want to get on to a bit of housekeeping, really. Obviously, we've got another bumper grid. We've got over 40 GT3 cars here this evening. A couple of reserves have come through, such as Nicholas Giurato from in the R Motorsport colours, running the number 39. Jordan C. Ruddock from TP12 Kessel Racing, the 17. They've made the move up, obviously, with some people not able to make it here this evening. But there were some penalties issued post-race at the Nurburgring just a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, the most notable penalty was obviously there was a turn 1 incident, which is never good at Nurburgring with such a tight first corner. And one car was deemed responsible for contact with at least 4 other cars and caused a little bit of a problem for a few others. Now, the Simsport penalty system is quite harsh on the first lap, as we obviously want to promote clean racing. So that driver has now been issued 8 penalty points to his race licence. And just to clarify that and to emphasise the severity of it, if he reaches 10 points in any one season, he's disqualified for the rest of the season. He's given 2 points per car contact made in any incident. So obviously he collected 4 cars, so he gets 8 points. So that is quite a heavy penalty, but as we say, we're trying to promote clean racing, and first lap incidents, you know, they're the worst.
Yes, I think I very much agree with that. Obviously, the driver in question is obviously going to have to watch what they do in this particular race, particularly going into Copse, which effectively we're running on the old variation of the circuit. Rather than going through Abbey as turn 1, we're going to use Copse as a first corner. But then also we look at the dynamics of the circuit, Steve. You know, you've got the iconic Baggett's, Beckett's and Chapel complex. You've got the Hanger Straight, you've got Farm Curve, Abbey, Aintree, the Wellington Straight, Brooklands, Luffield, Woodcote, and they're all named after, so there's a lot of history behind Silverstone, which hosted the first Formula One race back in 1950, and it still goes strong today, 70 years on, and it's going to be hosting 2 Grand Prix this year, which is great for Formula One, but also it's a staple of the Intercontinental GT Challenge. So let's first of all go to the points table after round 1 of the 90-minute race that happened last time out at the Nurburgring. So coming into this round, Chris Crossman for BD Racing leads the standings on 75 points, just 9 ahead of Stephen Haley from the Hitotsuyama R8 squad. You've then got Archie Clifford Roberts running with the editors. He is in 3rd place with 57 points, ahead of Lukas Kakos in the Soul Lamborghini in the top 20, ahead of Dave Hedges, Aaron Walker, James Hartnell, Regan Mitchell, Sreko Novakovic and Henry Wardell rounding out the top 10. Then we've got as you can see, we've got other drivers coming through here too. We've got also the likes of Paulo Tempera, Gavin Utley, Kieran Vidago, João Dias from Portugal, Rhys Wiggins, Steve Hinden. But there are 20 drivers there, Steve, that have scored, with Jeffrey Wolf in the Car Guy Racing Ferrari 488 down in 20th position with just 3 points. But this is very different now. The points again increase, and the winner tonight gets 100 points because we have formats of 30, 60-minute races, 90-minute races, and this is the longest that we'll have over the course of the calendar. We go to Hitotsuyama being the top of the championship standings on the teams, the editors in 2nd, BD Racing in 3rd, and it's only 6 points between the top 2 at the moment. You've then got Tempesta, Barnwell, Bexley Racing, RPM Racing, Pistonheads, RS Motorsport and Apex Racing. And you also notice that there is a Fordzilla down in the top 15. So, effectively there's quite a lot still going on here. But Steve, really interesting as we now head into our 30-minute qualifying session. And there is Nicholas Giurato in the number 39 R Motorsport. And this is a real test of commitment with these actual circuits. And I understand there's going to be 2 mandatory pit stops in the 2-hour race we're going to have this evening, Steve. But from your perspective, obviously being part of Simsport Racing, what's one of the big coups about being in a GT3 car on Assetto Corsa Competizione here at Silverstone?
I think the biggest thing for Simsport Racing at the moment is the size of the grid and the fact that we've now got this the strategy of 2 pit stops this evening, where they have to take fuel in both stops. Tyres is optional on both stops, although I don't think anyone's going to do the full 2 hours on one set of tyres. And the top 10 is incredibly hard to crack. There's some very talented, very fast drivers out there, and they were just going back to the points scored in the last round. There are some drivers that finished a lot further down than they would normally have, just due to the first corner incident and a few other little incidents here and there. So if if the right warnings have been sent out with the penalties and we have a little bit cleaner start this week, I think there will be the top 10 is going to be very difficult to crack, and that'll be the aim for a lot of drivers: top 10, top 15, and if they get in that bracket, then they'll be very happy with it.
Yeah, Chris Crossman not only took the victory, but he also took a point for the, I think it was the for pole position, and then Archie Clifford Roberts down in third. He actually took the fastest lap, so it's a point for both in these respective respective racing that we'll have over the next 18 weeks. We've done one round at the Nurburgring, which was a 90-minute race last time out, and that was, apart from the first turn incident, Steve, quite an interesting dynamic of just how we really need to get the strategy right, especially in GT3.
Yeah, and I think if I may just say that the qualifying is very important with the field this size, obviously, because it just gets so difficult to fight your way through such a talented field. But just another name to note is Kevin Critchley, who is racing with the Porsche. He's just rejoined, and he was battling for the championship last season with us. He finished second, so he's definitely another top 10 contender, and I would say possibly a contender for pole position. He's Chris Crossman's teammate, so that's two very strong Porsches in the field this evening.
Yeah, it was quite a strong performance from Chris Crossman last time out at the Nurburgring, my second home, if you will, being part German by descent. But here's James Hartnell in the 168 Tempesta Racing Ferrari 480 GT3, currently running P7 in qualifying at the moment. But Critchley leading the timesheets at the moment on a 1 minute 57.555. Clifford Roberts rounds out the top 2 ahead of Diop, Haley, Walker, Crossman, Hartnell, and that has just changed as Chris Crossman goes top by close to 0.3 of a second, 1 minute 57.270, and the number 3 Porsche 911 GT3R 991-2 derivative. Ruddock, Gakosh and Smith round out the top 10 positions, and Rich Smith is looking pretty good as Chris Crossman has a bit of an off-track excursion there, but in many respects not a bad showing from Rich Smith last time out, and he's shown that the Lexus, even though it's a bit of an old beast in terms of GT3 machinery, you can still use it quite well, can't you?
Yeah, and to be fair to Chris, he's new to sim racing. He's picked the Lexus, and it's not the easiest car out of the box. But Simsport Racing is a community, and a couple of the lads have jumped on with him this week, and they've tried to help him with setups. And just from my own experience, I've been on the servers this week with the guys. He has got quicker, and he's definitely improving. Which, it has to be said, there are quite a few drivers that are at that point where they're going to be battling midfield, but they are getting ever faster. Abdoulaye Diop, who's currently in 4th place, he wasn't in last week's race either, so he's rejoined us, and another very, very quick driver, race-winning driver, and a real-world GT4 driver, I think I'm correct in saying. So another one to watch.
Yep, I do recognise the name there. There's Steve Hindon in the number 40, running under the Garage 59 colours in the wonderful Aston Martin Vantage V8 GT3, 4-litre turbocharged V8 engine, which also has a 6-speed gearbox in there. So he's currently running 13th at the moment, but already I'm just looking at the qualifying times, and the top 14, which is from Chris Crossman, fastest in the number 3 Porsche. There's Roberto Santoro in the Rinaldi Racing colours, the number 27. He's 26th at the minute, but you said about qualifying being ultra important here, Steve. Top 14 separated by just over 1.1 seconds, and that's just going to really dictate how things are going to go as Santoro now runs his way through into Abbey.
Yeah, I think I think the top 15 will come down to less than a second. I think quite easily. The guys are close. The track is optimum now. The temperatures is up at sort of 25 degrees, so it doesn't get a lot better than that for them. So they'll start really pounding the laps out now, and the time should start tumbling. I mean, some of these guys are capable of the 56s, so watch out for those times.
Yeah, one of those was the hot lap that you saw a bit earlier on in the live broadcast. With Archie Clifford Roberts. He was actually using the Porsche 911 at that particular time, and he did a 1 minute 56.77. Thanks to the art of being able to slow down a hot lap video sent to you directly and being able to find out exactly what speed they're heading on the apex. So that's when people say that commentators can talk quite a bit. Well, you've got to put in the research, and I have had quite a few of the competitors actually send me some of their information, but I know that obviously Steve has a lot more information, which is why he's alongside me tonight, and it's really good to have you with me, Steve. Yellow flags out with just over 20 minutes of the qualifying session to go. Chris Crossman. Yes, we do need to, I think really, as we're about a third of the way through the session, let's head to the hot lap with our number 96. Welcome to the hot lap here with Archie Clifford Roberts in the 96 BD Racing Porsche 911 as we head into Copse for the first time, down from 5th at 150 to 4th and 110. Now we go to the fastest, most iconic part of Silverstone. Through into Maggots at around 148 miles an hour, dropping a little bit down to 140 before getting through into Beckett's, where you're taking it at third gear, 95 miles per hour before going through the left at Chapel Curve, accelerating through the gears down the Hanger Straight. Fifth gear, 150 miles an hour will be around about the top end that will get towards the end of the straightaway. Up to sixth, 156 miles an hour down to third, around about 90 miles an hour on the apex there. Now into Vale, we accelerate up the gears through fourth, into fifth, braking from 130 down to second, around 50 miles per hour through the first pass of Club. Exiting through the second, around 65 miles an hour. Up the gears once again. Third gear, fourth gear. Now across what is the wing complex here, up into fifth, 130 miles an hour before we head into Abbey. And the average speed of the next couple of corners is around 134 mph as you enter into Abbey at around 142, going through at 130 on the apex before Farm Curve at 138. Down a couple more gears, down to second, 55 through Village, then into the left at Loop, down all the way to first at 45 miles an hour, slowest part on the circuit, and then you power out through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight before the the final part of the section here at Silverstone. And you're accelerating all the way up to fifth gear, 150, before you put on the anchors, down to around 65 miles an hour in second gear, going through into Luffield, where you drop up to third, down to second again, and then you come out of the corner. And now it's a point of making the apex as best you can, get the power on early, through Woodcote, across the start-finish line, and you reach around 140 miles an hour, crossing the finish line, and Archie Clifford Roberts does a 1 minute 56.77. Back into qualifying here at Silverstone, and Kevin Critchley in the last couple of laps alone has done a 1 minute 56.994, and he's just blitzed that again in a 1 minute 56.736 in the number 15. So that's a great lap already. And you were already saying, Steve, that we were going to go into the 156. I mean, Chris Crossman now, he's got over half a second to find. And that's not easy here at Silverstone, let's not forget.
It's not. I mean, it's a circuit that you've really got to attack, but you've got to be smooth because, one mistake, especially when you're at the top end of the table there into the 56s, every single corner, every apex, you've got to hit it, and you've got to hit it right. Otherwise, you're going to lose tenths.
Mm-hmm.
I think Chris Crossman will really be attacking it now. Obviously, his teammates on pole, and he's on a good run from a pole and a win last time out, so he'll want to maintain that if he can.
Yeah, especially with 100 points on the board to go to the winner here at Silverstone. There's Richard Pixley in the number 7. Now, this is what I like about Assetto Corsa Competizione, that you see all the older cars come back into fruition, and especially with the ML Frey Jaguar Racing XKR SGT. That's Jaguar has been involved in sports car racing in its own right at Le Mans, but obviously Emile Frey took it on themselves to bring Jaguar back as an independent, and it still looks rather great for its age, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, when ACC was first launched, it was my car of choice, and I did race it myself for a few races, but moved on to other pastures, as it were. It is a great car to drive. It's not immensely difficult to drive. It's just extracting that final bit of speed out of it. It's just one of those cars that you've got to be really in tune with to get those lap times down.
Yeah, so quite a hefty calendar. We will head to Misano in Italy in a couple of weeks' time for 2 30-minute sprint races. Then over to South Africa to Kyalami on the 2nd of August. Monza will be round 5 on the 16th of August for another 90-minute encounter like the opening round at the Nurburgring. Zolder in Belgium, another place that I've actually visited Zolder quite a couple of years ago, 2016, mid-October to be precise. We've got 2 30-minute sprint races there. Then we head to the iconic Spa-Francorchamps in Stavelot in Belgium, and then Laguna Seca is the 8th round before we head to Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya for round 9, another 90-minute race on the 11th of October, and then rounding out the season. What a way to conclude things, Steve. Paul Ricard, another 2-hour encounter on the 25th of October to close out season 3 for Simsport Racing.
Yeah, it's a very similar track to Silverstone, I believe, in the fact that it's a very fast track, it's a very flowing track, and another one you've got to be ultimately, the smoothest driver will win. And this track, I think, as well as Paul Ricard, it can be quite hard on tyres depending on the setup. I know some of the guys are sort of saying they've got some really fast setups, but the tyres will only last 30 minutes on them. So there's been a bit of tweaking and alterations to setups to get the tyres to last a little bit longer. Just looking down the leaderboard at the moment, we've got a few drivers still out of position on where I would expect them to be. We've got Pinchbeck down in 24th at the moment, showing nearly 2.4 seconds off the pace. I would expect Chris to be up in the top 15. We've got Dave Hedges down in 19th. So there's a few drivers down there with still a little bit of work to do. Would expect to see them up in the top 15.
Yeah. So with just 14 minutes of the qualifying session to go here at Silverstone, Kevin Critchley is being closed in on by Chris Crossman, who's got the gap down to points from 0.574 and to 0.114 of a second. Archie Clifford Roberts rounds out the top 3. They're covered by just under 0.6 of a second, as Jeffrey Wolf in the number 86 488 GT3 Car Guy Racing entry looks to improve on 25th position as we've got a brief yellow flag out. Abdul Ali Diop in the 910, running under the Centerlock Racing colours in P4, ahead of Giorato in the 39, Aaron Walker, Jordan Ruddock, Stephen Haley, James Hartnell and Regan Mitchell rounding out the top 10, all covered by just over 1.2 seconds. You look a little bit further down the order, you've got Utley, Karkosh, Smith, Hinden, Novakovic, Riley, Martin Pilkington down in 17th position, DeBar in the number 20 Audi, Mark Neutelings, Dave Hedges, that rounds out the top 20, but still incredibly close at just under 2.1 seconds from provisional pole to 20th place here in the scheme of things at this particular moment, Steve.
Yeah, I think the fact that the pace is so hot up at the front now, I think my prediction for the top 15 being within a second is looking a little bit on edge at the moment. I'm not quite sure we're going to achieve that. But like I say, there's a few guys out of position still. I'm not quite sure what the issue is because the track is optimum, the temperature's great. So they should really be hitting those times now, unless it's just, again, with a massive field of sort of 38 cars on the track, it can be difficult to find your own space. But, everyone's got to do it.
Yeah, and a couple of other things I've just noticed. Obviously, between Chapel and Stowe, you've got the iconic Hanger Straight. From Aintree to Brooklands, you've got Wellington, and then you've got the long drag down past the Wing Complex on the right-hand side between Club and Abbey. And that's where the drivers are really going to try and use the slipstream, use the tow, possibly gain, if they can, a tenth, maybe a tenth and a half on each particular straight to maximise their opportunity. But it's not easy when you're having to deal with dirty air on the cut with the car, throwing that over your, the aerodynamics of your GT3 car whilst you're going through certain corners.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly when, especially through the faster corners, it can certainly make the front end feel a bit wishy-washy, and you lose that stability and that turning ability, and that scrubs the tenths off laps. Where you might be able to hold it a little bit faster, you're having to lift off just to get the car to turn in. But I'm sure the guys will do it. I mean, I see Pinchbeck, he's jumped up to 14th now, so that's a little bit better. He's obviously found a clean lap. I mean, the other thing is when you get in the slipstream of somebody, it means you're behind someone, and if you get in a slipstream and you come into the corners, then all the good work can soon be undone just by being held up for that corner or two.
Yes, especially when it comes to measuring your braking point, as Kevin Critchley again extends the gap over Chris Crossman to 0.231 seconds here at the fantastic Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, as we are using the international pit straights, not the main the national pit straight, as here's Stephen Haley in the number 24 Audi, running in P5 at the moment, 0.903 off of provisional pole. There's another Audi just behind. So seems like, I'm just wondering, because obviously with the fact that it's overcast overhead, Steve, looks like I would imagine that the drivers might be struggling with a little bit of tyre temp, especially when they bolt on a new set of 4 boots onto the GT3 machinery. It's not easy when you're trying to gather that temp going through an outlap, and then when you try and commit, and then, you know, as a result of that, the brakes aren't going to be up to temperature, the car's feeling on edge, it's feeling skittish, a bit tail happy through the corners, and it's wheel spinning like a good and going out of the corners when you're actually accelerating, like say coming down towards the Hangar Straight. It's not easy to try and keep that composure under such distinct pressure under qualifying situations.
It's not. It's very difficult, and I mean, personally, if I was out there now, I'd be putting enough fuel in now to go out for the last 10 minutes of qualifying. You do your out lap, you do your first flying lap. Pretty much in these cars, it can still be a warming up lap because you're still getting the temperature into the tyres, you're still getting the brakes up to temperature, and it's usually sort of your second or third flying lap where you can probably put in your best time. So with 10 minutes to go, they've still got time to do that. They should get another 2 or 3 laps in. And improve on some of those times.
Yeah, looks like Chris Crossman, he's been on a lap, so 4 minute 40 showing on the timing screen from our side of things, but that doesn't mean that he might be just gathering as much temperature into the tyres, brakes, and obviously to help the mechanical grip of the car when they try and rotate the car through the corners. It's not easy when you've got quite a hefty car in terms of whatever brand it is, whether it be Ferrari, Jaguar, Audi, Bentley, the Bentley Continental GT, the Lamborghini, Porsche, McLarens. So it's all still, still to play for in many respects. Here's Gerard de Bar, still 19th position at the moment. He's currently 2 seconds off of the pace, but it looks like Archie Clifford Roberts is starting to try and close on the top 2, Steve, and he's only 7/10 off of Critchley, but Critchley has really been sort of showcasing some really, really good pace in the number 15 at the moment.
Yeah, Archie's very often he is the pace setter, and he's probably got more pole positions than anyone in Simsport within our championships. He's a very quick lad, and he will want to be on top of those timing sheets just for bragging rights, if nothing else. He takes a lot of pride in what he does, and he's a very, very, very quick racer. So he will be trying hard. Nobody will be sandbagging out there. They'll all be trying for that pole position. Any of those guys in, just looking down the list there, 7, 8, 9. Looking at all 9, the top 10 have all been on pole at some point at Simsport, so that just shows you the calibre of the drivers out there. They're all capable of doing it.
Yeah, so just over 7.5 minutes to go. There's Nuno Martins in the number 18 R8 Absolute Racing colours. Currently sitting in 38th position at the moment, but I've just noticed Chris Pinchbeck up to 13th. Novakovic improves in lap time. There's Mark Neutelings in the Team Parker Racing 666 colours. Those colours are currently used by Scott Mulvin, a very good friend of mine, known him and his dad Dominic for quite a few years now. I remember when he was back in his Formula 4 days, but obviously had a really good couple of exchanges on Discord with Mark. He's a really nice guy, and very, very helpful, as a lot of the guys are in Simsport Racing. He's just set a personal best of a 1 minute 58.479. Sreko Novakovic, who's in the 357 Ferrari, who I think that is him just behind, currently running in 17th position, 1 minute 58.485. Henry Wardell has also improved on lap time. That's a 1 minute 59.088. Roberto Santoro also improves, and Neil Kirkland also improves in terms of their lap time. So drivers are finding some pace out there now as the track is evolving as we get to the last 6.5 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's all lining up to be a fantastic race. You've got drivers like Regan Mitchell, who's in 11th, who's not necessarily the greatest qualifier. He's a fast driver, but when it comes to race pace, he's very, very clean, very consistent, and he can bang those laps in. And I guarantee that if he qualifies in 11th, he'll definitely finish in the top 10.
Yes, well, you mentioned Regan. Funny enough, he's 8th in the standings, running under the RPM Racing banner in the Black Falcon Racing colours. 39 points to his credit in the Mercedes-AMG GT3, as there's a little bit of kick up of the dust from Mark Neutelings there. But yeah, I mean, just looking at the top 8 from 1st to 8th, you know, this could really change the championship standings in some respects, as we see Regan Mitchell now coming through into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And it's quite interesting, the speed differential, because unlike a single-seater, a GT3 car is a completely different animal. You know, they're pushing nearly 150 miles an hour through Maggots. They're dropping to 3rd gear, possibly around 100 miles an hour on the apex before they accelerate out through Chapel. And it's quite an interesting test that when you've got a bigger car, you've got more weight to consider. You've got potential tyre drag, you've got temperature. If you've not got temperature, you're not going to go flat out through Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel.
You're not, and I think in the heavier cars as well, the weight transfer plays a massive effect. So if you're not quite as smooth as you should be, or you just hit that braking point wrong, and you've got too much of a steering input in at some point, it can really scrub the time off when it initiates that slide or a bit of understeer somewhere. You know, so yeah, they're very difficult beasts to hammer around at full speed, and I'm sure we'll see a few little mistakes in a 120-minute race. It's going to be a test of concentration for some of the drivers.
And with 2 hours here at Silverstone, that's no easy ask. I think what the biggest thing is that hopefully they'll have a lot of hydration on standby, because you and I both know, Steve, that it doesn't matter whether you are a rear-wheel driver or a sim racing driver, you will be concentrated. Your eyes will be on stalks, you'll be pushing like crazy. The direct drive force speed feedback that your steering wheel hub might be set at home, or in like a man cave or something like that. It's going to really test them, because this, we had 90 minutes of the Nurburgring, and it wasn't easy. We go to 2 hours at Silverstone, 2 mandatory pit stops, and again, it just ups that skill set. It ups that motivation to want to be the best out there in Simsport Racing, but whilst racing clean and fair. So these drivers are really going to be under duress for the duration of the 2 hours, because it's all about strategy.
Absolutely, and obviously speaking from experience of when I've been racing with these guys, we can finish a 2-hour race and we're all in Discord, and it takes us another hour just to calm down, cool down, and we'll just sit there talking about the race, and it's just coming down from that adrenaline rush, because you do get so involved, your concentration levels are so high, the sims are so immersive, there's guys playing in VR, there's guys on triple screens, as you say, they've got all the bits of gadgets and things to make it as immersive as possible, but that all brings the concentration levels up as well. And 2 hours, it's certainly, it's testing. It'll certainly, the lads will certainly be sweating by the end of it.
Yeah, and probably losing a couple of kilos in the process. So the last 180 seconds of qualifying, Kevin Critchley, now on your screens in the number 15 Porsche 911 GT3R, is still leading qualifying. He's going to try and see if he can push that gap a little bit further ahead of Chris Crossman. So Kevin has done a 1 minute 56.619. Chris Crossman has done a 1 minute 56.850. Stephen Haley now up into P3, having done a best effort. There's Lucas Kakos in the Barwell Motorsport colours, in the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo, 9th at the moment. And Lucas was very, very quick last time out at the Nurburgring.
Yeah, Lucas is a driver of old. He's done a few seasons with Simsport on and off when we were in Seca Corsa before Competizione came out, and he's a very, very quick driver. Just to mention Steve Haley, it's nice to see he's got squeezed up into 3rd place, although Archie won't be too chuffed. Steve switched from the AMG last season to the Audi this season, and he's giving it very mixed reviews at the moment. He's still not settled into that car, so I think there's more speed to come from Steve once he starts getting in tune with the car.
Yeah, I think Steve was one of the people that actually sent me their information. hometown of Nottingley. Interesting facts about him: he was part of the IDT development team as a graphic artist, and was the and as I say that, he's got off. Oh, no, that's not where you want. That's not where you want to go off. Bless him. But
is that the commentator's curse?
I'm glad you said that before I did. But he's a founding member of Simsport Racing, which is great. And he's running on the Hitotsuyama colours. There's Adam Isalovic, also one that didn't have the greatest of races last time out of the Nurburgring. But yeah, I think one of the greatest things is when we ask drivers for their about you information, this is what Steve has put down. He's gone, I'm a father of many and a granddad to 3. I've been married 10 years to a very patient wife. I'm an alcoholic when in the presence of Steve Proudly.
Not true.
Love nature and my beloved Yorkshire. I'm very technically minded with an interest of all things PC and gaming, which is why his own PC is actually one that he has custom built. It's running on an Intel i9900K, 16 GB 3200 DDR, NVIDIA GeForce 1080i 11 GB custom built. That just shows the commitment of some of these people in this, that they want to make it their own. And he's using the Oculus Rift S, so he's gone full VR, and it just shows that when it becomes more than a hobby and it becomes a passion, a different side of the individual comes out, doesn't it?
Absolutely, and I mean, just to run groups like this, you don't do it just for the fun of it. You do it because you're passionate about it, and you have got to have very understanding wives, partners, whatever, because it does take up a lot of time, and the commitment is, you can't question the fact that the amount of time that admins put into running these groups, and then the enjoyment is these events like this, the races, so where Steve is up at the front, he'll be loving that. He'll be looking to stick with Mr. Critchley and Mr. Crossman if he can keep 3rd place, which I think he may do now, unless Archie's got an answer for him. But he's still in the pits at the moment, so it's not looking likely. But yeah, it's a passion and it's a commitment. It's not so much just for fun anymore. When you, as I say, when you're an admin, you put so much time and effort into it. And let's not talk about the finances.
We're not even going to go about that because I think it's been talked about over the last 3.5 months to Kingdom Come. But at the moment, the checker flag is out for round 2 here of the Simsport Racing ACC Season 3 season. So Kevin Critchley takes provisional pole with a 1 minute 56.619 in the number 15. Chris Crossman will line up alongside in the number 3, our current points leader coming into this round. Stephen Haley and Archie Clifford Roberts will provisionally be on row number 2, ahead of Aaron Walker and Jordan Ruddock in the number 99 in the 17. Abdullahi Diop and Lukas Kakos will be on row 4, ahead of Nicholas Girato and Aaron Martin Pilkington. James Hartnell and Regan Mitchell will line up on row 6, ahead of Gavin Utley and Dean Riley. Dave Hedges will complete the top 15 with Kieran Vidago alongside. Chris Pinchbeck and Rich Smith will round out row 9 with Gianluca Di Luca and Steve Hinden rounding out the top 20. Then it's Mark Neutelings and Adam Isalovic on row number 11, ahead of Sreko Novakovic and Gerard Debar in the number 20 Audi. That'll be row 12. Jeffrey Wolfe and Henry Wardell, that is row 13, ahead of Mark Raddenberry and Rajiv Kalsi in the number 47. Roberto Santoro and Ian Tamkin round out the top 30 positions. And what's more, Steve, they're covered by about 2.8 seconds, as I think very, very soon we may be going racing for 2 hours here at Silverstone. Yeah,
it's a nice tight grid. I'm not sure it was quite the 1 second I predicted for the top 15, but it's still close. I mean, the top 3 are all within half a second, and then if you take it down from sort of 5th place, 4th, 5th place down, it stays very tight. So we should be in for an exciting race. I think once they start battling as well, and hopefully they can, Mr. Crossman and Mr. Critchley might start tripping up over each other, and the battles will ensue, I'm sure.
Yeah, very interesting statistic that I think it was Chris Pinchbeck and Kieran Vidago that actually set the same lap time, and it was around 1.5 seconds. So you weren't far off on your estimation there, Steve. So a pretty good call there. I was really really wondering that with over 40 GT3 cars, all pushing anywhere between 520 to 550 brake horsepower, depending on their setups and everything like that, it's going to be quite interesting over the next 2 hours. So, 3.66 miles, anything can happen at Silverstone. And as we have seen in the past, not just in GT3 racing, but also other categories, motorsport always provides that unpredictability factor.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, as we said, it's going to be down to the start, getting away cleanly. I don't think Silverstone's quite as tight, obviously, as Nurburgring was, so the start should be a little bit easier on these guys as long as they can funnel it and get in single file for the first, sort of second, third corners. Should get away nicely, and then let the battles commence really from there.
Yep, then it'll be elbows out, and each for their own. As a maximum of 100 points. And if they get pole position and a fastest lap during the race, then someone could get the whole shebang, 102 points to their credit. But in many respects, the biggest thing that I'm looking forward to is when the cars are on the formation lap and they are side by side, 2 by 2, we go green, 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 and then it is all going to unfold before our very eyes. And I think the biggest thing for me, Steve, is going to be the strategy, what each driver does individually, and that is going to set the tempo. But I think we're going to have a pretty quick pace, probably in the first 10 to 15 minutes, as is normally customary within endurance racing.
Yeah, those Porsche guys on the front row are certainly going to make a break for it. They'll want to break the toe because there is obviously a couple of good straights here where you can get in the slipstream and make some moves down the inside if they're not defending properly. So yeah, they'll want to get clear, but I do think they'll be battling each other. So I foresee a good battle right through the top 10, top 15 tonight, and I think it's anybody in the top sort of 6, 7 places at least could win this quite easily if people start tripping up over themselves.
And that is something that we will find out over the next couple of hours. So we are here at the home of British Motorsport, Silverstone Grand Prix circuit, and in many respects, I think it's going to be an absolute cracker. We'll be back in just a moment when we get the race underway very, very shortly here. Hold on to your hats for round 2 of Simsport Racing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Season 3. Back in a moment. You'll have seen the advertisement for Simply Race Now reopened as of yesterday afternoon at 12 noon. Head to their official websites, book your place. You can go to all their social media channels. Simply Race Now back open for business as we're about to get things underway. It is an all Stuttgart front row here at the home of British Motorsport for Simsport Racing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Season 3, Round 2. 2 hours of racing. Myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Simsport Racing's very own Steve Proudly in the virtual commentary box. What a glorious sight there, Steve. Just look at all that GT3 machinery as we now go onto the formation lap being led by Messrs. Critchley and Crossman.
Yeah, absolutely, and just to put a different spin on that, this is the time the drivers are going around obviously trying to get some heat into the brakes and into the tyres, and then they start questioning, have I got the right amount of fuel in, are the brake ducts open or closed enough, are the tyre pressures set right, because don't forget this is a 5 a.m. start, or 5:22 it is on the server clock, so the temperature is only going to rise. Obviously then, have I got my pit strategies correct, because as I say, 2 mandatory pits, and it's totally up to them what they do with tyres. They just must take some fuel at each stop. So there's a lot going through the minds on this lap, not just warming up, and then obviously when Kev brings it round to that start line, it'll be total focus on those green lights come.
So we'll go through the grid as much as we can as they come round through Chapel and down onto the Hangar Straight. Kevin Critchley in the number 15 Porsche is your pole sitter for round 2 here at Silverstone. Alongside will be the number 3 of Chris Crossman. Stephen Haley in the leading Audi number 24 will have Archie Clifford Roberts in the 96 Audi alongside. Then it's Aaron Walker in the 99 Audi, and then Jordan Ruddock in the leading Ferrari in the number 17. That's row 3. Abdulali Diop in the 910 Audi will have Lukas Kakos alongside for company with Nicolas Girato and Aaron Martin Pilkington completing the top 10. Then it's James Hartnell, Regan Mitchell, Gavin Utley, Dean Riley, Dave Hedges, Kieran Vidago, Chris Pinchbeck, Rich Smith, Gianluca De Luca, Steve Hinden, Mark Neutelings, Adam Isalovic, Sreko Novakovic, Gerard Debar, Jeffrey Wolf, Henry Wardell, Mark Raddenbury, Ranjiv Kalsi, Roberto Santoro, and Ian Tamkin. That is your top 30. And now the other thing that we've got to focus on here, Steve, is that it's not about just settling in and getting tyre temps in and brake temps into the car, but it's now about just keeping calm and just keeping focus, keeping the tunnel vision in and waiting until we go green here at Silverstone. And the adrenaline, the heart rate is going to be up. They're probably going to be, there's going to be palpitations, the heart rate's going to accelerate, and they're going to feel a twinge of nerves. But hopefully, for every single one of the 40-plus drivers here at Silverstone, it's going to be good nerves because they're looking forward to an exciting race just like you and I are.
Absolutely, yeah. And once they come round and the line up 2 by 2, that's when the things really start to happen. They'll just start focusing, looking straight forward, watching the green lights. The further down the grid you are, you'll still be watching those green lights, but the minute those have gone, you'll be looking at that car in front. Obviously, Kevin Critchley, Chris Crossman are fortunate enough they're going to have an open track to look at, and they'll just be battling each other for that first apex and getting through the first corner cleanly. But here they come now, starting to form in the 2 by 2, I believe.
Yep, down the Wellington Straight, having come out of the left-hander at Aintree, which normally at full speed will be taken at around 110 miles an hour in 4th gear. So, Critchley and Crossman on the front row. Haley and Clifford Roberts just behind. They are now getting themselves steeled up, ready for 2 hours here at the home of British motorsport for Simsport Racing, Assetto Corsa Competizioni, Season 3. It's a 2-hour race, 30 minutes longer than the Nurburgring opener 2 weeks ago. So we wait for the remainder of the field to hopefully get into formation, and once they are given the green light to go, we will be racing. Through Luffield they have come, and now into the right-hander at Woodcote. And then it will be lights to green, and we will head down to Copse for the first time. The anticipation builds. The drivers get themselves ready, lining up in 2 by 2 side-by-side formation. So, ladies and gentlemen, do we go racing for 2 hours here at Silverstone? We are green, 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 and off and away we go. A huge consortium of GT3 cars hurtle their way through into Copse for the first time. And it looks like one of the Audis on the second row have got a really good start at the minute as they head through into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And that is a really good start for Kevin Critchley in the number 15. He's absolutely blasted away from the driver alongside him. Round 1 winner, Chris Crossman. Archie Clifford Roberts past Stephen Haley up into P3. And look at the battle between Aaron Walker and Jordan Ruddock. That is for P5 and P6. It's side by side for 4th and 5th now, going down in towards Stowe for the first time. And already that is a move made, I believe. That is Jordan Ruddock closing up on Aaron Walker for P5 as we head through Vale into Club. And already, Steve, that was an incredibly clean start. Everyone seemed to get through relatively unscathed through Copse.
They did. It seemed very clean. I did notice just one unfortunate event, not quite sure how it occurred, but Regan Mitchell, my top tip for a top 10, say that after a few beers. He is now down in 30th place, I believe. He left the track. I caught up with him and he was facing the wrong way, but I believe he's obviously had an incident. So he's still not out of it. There's obviously 2 hours to go. Long race. He'll climb his way back up, I'm sure.
That's always the case when there is a bit more time on the clock, and there is Stephen Haley, who lost out to Arch, as he's more commonly known, Clifford Roberts. So that's going to be a really good battle for what is P4 on the road. But really good to see Aaron Walker in the number 99. He's battling away with Jordan Ruddock in the number 17, the leading Ferrari. James Hartnell down in 10th place in the 168 Ferrari 488 GT3. Let's have a look at this replay now. They're coming through. And, now James Hartnell actually turned, I think had a little bit of contact there with Regan Mitchell. So that was why he was turned around. And I think that was through the Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel complex there. There's Diop in the Santaloc Racing colours in the 910 Audi. And he's closing on both Ruddock and Walker as they go side by side. That's very hairy indeed. Through Maggots into Beckett's. Now they'll then head into the... here's another replay. Here's the number 66 Nissan R35 GTR. Oh, the 75 Porsche gets a punt. Oh, not what you want. And I think that was through Stowe there.
Yeah, not an ideal situation, but hopefully the lads will get it back on, not too much damage, and get back in and get some racing done. Obviously, if there is damage, they could potentially use one of the pit stops just to jump in and repair if required, and then get back on the track and see where they fall into the order. But it's really good to see the racing up front, although Kev's obviously just pulled out, by the looks of it, about second on Chris. Archie close behind, Steve Haley following on, and as you say, Aaron and Jordan and Abdley all battling away. So the top 10 still reasonably tight, and there's lots of room for some battles.
I think one of the other things I've got to remember here now is Girato is up into P9 ahead of Martin Pilkington. So Girato in the number 39 doing a really, really good job so far, but due on the back bumper now of Ruddock. With the Singer Beer livery on the side of it, and also King Power on the back bumper. It's lovely to see all these resplendent GT3 liveries that we would normally associate in mainstay, so the AWS Intercontinental GT Challenge. Here's the replay now that we're going to see, and that's the number 9 Porsche. I'm just trying to remember who that is because I'm looking down this entry. It's confusing.
I think that Porsche was Vidago that caused the contact there. Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Thanks to our friends at Simply Race for Mike Yao for giving us some great angles. So that's why Regan Mitchell then got turned around. So Kevin Critchley, in the meantime, has set the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 57.765.
If I can just take this quick opportunity to apologise to the viewers, because obviously I know all these lads very well, and I'm fully aware that I keep referring to them by the first names, which probably doesn't mean a lot to some people, but it's just force of habit, I'm afraid, and I'll do my best to call them all by the surnames as we go on.
Don't worry, that's why I'm doing it. But we're nearly 5 minutes into this race, and this is a great battle for Dupe alongside Ruddock. Is that the case going through into Stowe? That's brazen if Dupe keeps it around the outside. He could get the inside run, and he's got the position. He's run a little bit wide there, but Ruddock's still just up ahead of the 910 Audi. That was very, very close, and Dupe back up on the inside going to the approach into club. Walker's loving this because the two behind are battling side by side. It's meaning that he's getting away from them as they go, and this is just the customary side of things. There's Girato also on the back bumper now of Dupe, so that has gone from a 3-way battle for 5th to what could be a 4-way scrap. Now, someone's gone off there. Wondering if that might be Gerard Barr, not too sure. I think he might have dropped a bit further down the order as a result of that, so not a great race for Gerard Barr, who's up in the thick of things, ran about the top 10 last time out at the Nurburgring. But Walker now starting to try and get away from Ruddock, but he's only less than 6.5 tenths ahead of the number 17 Ferrari. As Martin Pilkington in 6.26 just on the back bumper of the 39 Aston of Girato.
Yeah, Martin Pilkington's looking a little bit feisty, and it looks like he's stuck behind Girato, but I'm sure not for long he'll get in the slipstream, and he's going to be looking to make a move, I would think, fairly quickly. So
as you can see, the sunlight now coming up, obviously with, I think it's a factor of 4 the time has actually been increased by. So we started at 5:22 in the morning, we're now at 6:02. So sunshine's starting to beat down. And one of the biggest things, especially for those running virtual reality headsets here, Steve, it's going to be a bit more immersive, but also the sunlight coming into the eyes, even in the sim racing world, is just as difficult to contest with as it is in real life.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you get into the VR world and it becomes so immersive that you are not aware of what's going on around you in the real world. And many a times I've been racing and it's been glorious sunlight. You take the VR off and it's pitch black outside, and your body takes a second or two to adjust what's going on.
Yep, as that is Aaron Martin Pilkington up the inside of Giordano, who actually ran wide coming through Stowe. So he's now up into 7th position. So that means he's got a chance to close up on Duke just up ahead. And here we are on board with Jordan Ruddock, closing on the back bumper of Aaron Walker. The battle for P4 now well and truly on through, and that's really, really hairy. 5th gear, foot planted to the floor. Great commitment there by Jordan Ruddock, but the Audi seems to have a little bit more of the legs on the Ferrari, and especially when it's a bit more stable through the twisty stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously Jordan and Aaron are both very, very quick drivers, and obviously put a lot of trust in each other. But it's obviously for Ruddock to actually make the move and make it clean. So all Aaron has to do is stay on his lines and keep doing what he's doing, really.
Yeah, very much the case. It's one thing to get the position, and then it's another thing altogether to keep it. So at the moment, with 1 hour and 52 minutes and 10 seconds still to go here at Silverstone, Critchley leads from Crossman, Clifford Roberts, Walker, Ruddock, Dupe, Martin Pilkington, Giordano, Haley, Hartnell. That's the top 10, with Utley, Hedges, Hinden, Pinchbeck, Smith, Novakovic, Diaz, Kalsi, Kalkosh and Wardell rounding out the top 20. And Archie Clifford Roberts in the 96 Audi starting to close on Chris Crossman for P2. They come through Maggots and then head into the short braking zone into Beckett's and then into the left at Chapel. And both of them using as much of the track as they dare. A bit more dust being kicked up by Chris Crossman there on the exit of Beckett's into Chapel. And it just shows how hard they're pushing, even in this early phase of the race.
Yeah, and another guy that's pushing hard, I believe, is Martin Pilkington. As I said, he's got past the Aston Martin. He's now on the back of Diop and looking to get past him as quick as possible. I think the gap's down to 2/10, so that could be a battle to watch.
Yeah, looks like he's in the slipstream as they're going through Vale into Club. And the good thing is that he's going to be able to use Duke as a bit of a yardstick, you know. So wherever Duke breaks, he's going to maybe say, well, maybe I could make it an extra 5-10 metres before I decide to brake, as they go through down towards the other side of the circuit, through into Abbey, the right-hand sweeper, taking it around 5th gear, 130 miles an hour. An interesting thing through the hot lap. Oh, Duke loses it! Martin Pilkington nearly got an opportunity there, and he could have snapped that up like a good one. And Duke again, he was very lucky there, because that was no easy tank slapper to control.
No, lightning reactions there just to keep that in the right direction, really. Very lucky, and Martin Pilkington now really just glued to his rear bumper. He's looking for that opportunity to get past. Yeah,
so they go down the Wellington Straight into Brooklands. As Duke takes the racing line once again, but you can just see how much wider. Well, that was a little bit of a cut there from Martin Pilkington, just pushing too hard, trying to sweep the Aston Martin in. So we've got a bit of a replay here. Here is one of the... there's a little bit of an argy-bargy, and that involves the number 47 Ferrari there. And that was also one of the McLarens running under the team. That might have been Ian Tamkin, I think, possibly, in the 82 McLaren.
Yeah, Ranjith Kelsey in the Ferrari, a Simsport regulars. That's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, never easy, and these things do happen. You know, they've had that adrenaline buzz at the start. As again, you can just see how quickly Martin Pilkington is trying to close once again on Duke for P6, and Giordano is closing. Haley and Hartnell not too far behind. So with 10 minutes gone. We still, just over 10 minutes gone, we still have Critchley. He's leading by about 3.2 seconds now ahead of Chris Crossman. As there's the move. Oh, now that was very close. Going towards the outside into Club was Jordan Ruddock on Aaron Walker. They make it nice and cleanly through. But I think Ruddock was looking at the switchback there on the second part, and it's a second gear corner. You're entering it in about 50 miles an hour, and you're exiting it at about 65. You're going up through third. You're putting the power down. You're trying to get the run on the opposition as they go through Abbey and Farm Curve, and now into Village. And it's a tight right-hander here. Second gear, taking around 60 miles an hour, minding out for the sausage curbs. Then it's a left again at the loop. Slowest part on the circuit. First gear, all the way down the gearbox, and it's around 45, 50 miles an hour. But then they start accelerating onto the Wellington Straight here, Steve, and they're building, and already exiting at around 110, and they're going to break from around 150 miles an hour in fifth back down to second. So it's a lot. Oh, no, that's not what you want. Oh, Ruddock goes into the back bumper of Walker, and they both lose out, and that gives an opportunity to both Duke and Martin Pilkington there. That was not what you wanted. I think Jordan Ruddock just had a bit too much of outbraking going into Brooklands, and that put him and Walker on the back foot, so to speak.
Yeah, I was just going to say on the lead up to that, they were showing great trust in each other, and it was getting very, very close. I'm sure Jordan Ruddock will be absolutely gutted at that contact. As to say, obviously Aaron will be very disappointed, but that's all down to Jordan. Was that straight slapped him in the back and pushed him off. So yeah, he'll be absolutely gutted with himself. Just as a few, I mean, the field's getting spread out now, but the battles are thick all the way down. Regan Mitchell, who was originally down to into 30-something after that exit in the first section, he's back up to 22nd with Dean Riley, another driver that's out of position, literally within half a second of him chasing him down. So that's two potential top 15 drivers battling away further down the field.
Yeah, just having a look at where Walker and Ruddock have now ended up, 13th and 15th. Here's a replay. So they come through. No, I think that was just a bit too much commitment, too much speed, not being scrubbed off in time, and Ruddock just lost it. And Walker, definitely, as you say, disappointed. I think both of them, they're probably going to have a chat about it. They'll both show a bit of frustration, disappointment, but after it, they'll probably go, well, hang on, it is racing after all. I think one of the biggest things about sim racing, Steve, from both our aspects is, virtually speaking, you have an imaginary repair bill. You don't actually get the invoices sent to you by the manufacturers or the teams.
No, the only thing that these guys are worried about is if the damage is costing them anything time-wise per lap now, and they'll both get their heads down and sort of get back in it. They realise it's a long race, and they'll just concentrate on getting back into a flow and getting back with it, and just getting back up into the top 10.
Really good to see Archie Clifford Roberts in the 96 Audi. He is not letting Crossman go. One of the good things is that he was no further than I think 0.4 of a second. Here's Henry Wardell in the number 8 Porsche, running in 19th, and that is João Dias, based out of Portugal, just up ahead in the number 26 Mercedes AMG GT3. This is another great battle. This is for 18th on the road. They're coming through, heading towards the main first corner here at Silverstone, through into Copse. And again, Diaz just has a really good ability in the Mercedes to sweep in front of Wardell there, Steve. And Wardell's trying to fight tooth and nail. They're going to go side by side nearly through maggots. That could have been very, very leery at around nearly 150 miles an hour in fifth gear. That would have been probably a highlight very early on in the 2-hour race we have.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Porsche, he'll be clinging onto that slipstream now, because the Porsche isn't the fastest car in a straight line. Fantastic out of the corners, so you'll see him climbing all over the back of the AMG coming out of the corners, but down the straights he'll be clinging onto the slipstream just to try and stay with him. But absolutely fantastic racing from those two there. Making that move stick was brilliant.
Yeah, and also just behind they've got Jeffrey Wolf and Mark Neuterlings in the Ferrari and Bentley respectively.
Yes.
Regan Mitchell, he's about 4.6 seconds, but if they start to battle really, really intensively, which is what they're doing now, they could really cause themselves a bit of a problem in the next few moments if Regan has an opportunity to close that gap.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Regan's got Dean Riley in tow, who is another quick driver, so he'll be just following Regan, I'm sure, and grabbing onto that tow, and he'll just work his way up with him as well, so that battle could turn into 5 cars very soon.
Yeah, so on the anchors goes Mark Neuterlings in the number 666 Team Parker Racing Bentley Continental GT3, as Jeffrey Wolf right on the back bumper, and that was going through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight. We're now with Archie Clifford Roberts.
Yeah, Archie's looking to push now, isn't he? He's all over the back of Chris. You just sort of wonder, is the Porsche eating away at the tyres? Is it starting to suffer from degradation from those, or is it just Archie's that's now got his rhythm going and he's going to really push and put Chris under pressure and try and take that position from him?
Yeah, nearly had a bit of a moment there, did Clifford Roberts. A little bit more dust than being kicked up by the right rear wheel on the back of the Audi R8 LMS GT3. fantastic car in its own right, a very successful car. Obviously, the initial generation was one of the most successful custom racing GT3 cars. But still, I mean, great to see a brand like Audi still keeping its big toes in the water in GT3 racing. Team WRT and Hitotsuyama are two of the most well-known, along with Absolute Racing, as Clifford Roberts goes very, very wide through. If you couldn't have called that, that's a brilliant textbook move there from Archie Clifford Roberts up the inside. That's through Village. He tried to go for it. That, like, the way he was measuring that, as there's Henry Wardell past Joao Diaz there. That's the move for 18th position. But just the way that Archie measured Chris for that move through Abbey and Farm curve, he absolutely nailed it and nailed the brakes perfectly in the braking zone, out-braking Chris into Village. That was a textbook GT3 manoeuvre there.
Yeah, you can be sure Archie had been lining that move up for a couple of laps. He'll have been watching Chris. He's been following him for a few laps, and he'll have just been thinking, right, where can I do this? How am I going to do this? And that was a well executed manoeuvre. It's fantastic. He just basically opened the door himself and let himself through.
Yeah, that was that's definitely one where it just really captivates your attention, and then all of a sudden he's done the move before you know it, right under your nose, and pulls the blinder out of the hat, a bit like a magician and its rabbit. But a little bit further down the order, as you can probably see, Jeffrey Wolf is still battling away with Mark Neuterlings. That's for 20th position. So Bentley versus Ferrari. And, I think Jeffrey had a bit of a difficult one at the Nurburgring, but he's now into the top 21 position here at Silverstone. He's really closing now on Mark. And this is another great battle where you see cars that have competed in the Liquid Moly Bathurst 12 hours. They've competed at Macau. And then to see them on our screens now being streamed, and these guys just having an absolute blast of a time. Okay, they'll say, I'm never going to be in a GT3 car, but hey, this is the next best thing.
Oh, and it absolutely is, as we were talking earlier about the immersiveness of it all. And it's real to these guys while they're on track. I mean, obviously you got Regan Mitchell now. He's closed the gap up. He's 2 seconds off the back of Wolf, and Dean Riley's 0.3 off the back of Regan. So as we were saying earlier, they are now closing up, and that is going to turn into a 4-car battle very soon.
And here we are with the battle for P4 at the moment. Dupe and Martin Pilkington at loggerheads once again, as we are fast approaching 20 minutes completed, local time as per the server, 6:55 a.m. with the sunshine definitely overhead here at Silverstone. Track and air temperature a virtual 12 degrees Celsius, and it will start to rise. And one of the biggest things, Steve, is that it's a bit like Le Mans, that when the temperatures start to rise, you get that sort of happy hour. But in our case, it might be it's like 10 minutes or something. The drivers will really get the temperature into the tyres and the brakes, and the cars start coming alive, and they really, really start pushing the lap times.
Yeah, and with the different brands, it'll affect the cars differently, and obviously depending on the setups of the cars, tyre pressures, things like that. So we might start to see a few different pit strategies coming into play soon enough, depending on how the guys' tyre pressures are running. But it's a long race. Let's see what happens.
Very much there. Just a bit of a shout out to Clark87 on YouTube. I'm having a look at the comments. He says that great coverage, guys. You deserve way more viewers. Well, please share. That would be greatly appreciated. And he said that the cars aren't real, but the racing is. Assetto Corsa Competizione is awesome. I have to wholeheartedly agree with that, because the first sort of like platform that I really got immersed into through the E-Team Brit GT3 Challenge, which some of the Simsport guys, the summer series that we did, so we had like Chris, Dave, Mark in there as well, and we were using Assetto Corsa Competizione. And for me as a real life commentator, making the transition, I would say, because it's not easy in commentary, that you have to learn a new skill set altogether. And for me, I was really, really impressed with just like how realistic the cars are out on circuit, the liveries, the dynamics of the chassis, how the cars react dependent on fuel, and tyre degradation over time, and it's just such a wonderful platform, and I can see why so many people love this platform. And it's obviously now SRO Esports and the likes of Dave Perel have really got on board, and it's become their official sort of like sim racing go-to, if you will, because you've got all the fantastic liveries that are used by the teams in real life.
Yeah, just looking at this battle now, we've got Pinchbeck under pressure from Ruddock with 0.2 behind. He's going to be looking to make a move on Chris and regain some positions that he lost earlier. But that's a great battle there. There's probably four or five cars all within a second of each other.
Yeah, it looks like you've got Aaron Walker and Gavin Utley just up ahead in 13th and 12th position respectively, and then not too far behind, well, not too far ahead, they've got Rich Smith in the Lexus, and he's currently running in P11. So for those watching at home, the same thing applies as to what we had at the Nurburgring. They have 2 mandatory pit stops. So the orange colour with the number 2 in it, that is how many pit stops need to be served during this race. As here is Pinchbeck really being hustled now by Ruddock. And Novakovic is only 3.9 seconds behind this battle in the 357 Ferrari 48888 GT3. So we are. It's really interesting now that we hit 7:08 a.m. local time, Steve. And again, the times are starting to decrease as Kevin Critchley has set the fastest lap of the race a little bit earlier on, a 1 minute 57.765, and they're running in the 158s at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the track temperatures are still really low there. I think they're around about 13 degrees at the moment, so obviously still not in an optimum window track temp wise, but that obviously will be climbing as the sun comes up, and it's looking like the forecast is for a dry race. Certainly the next half hour is looking like it's sunshine, so things are just going to get faster and closer by the looks of it, and it's a bit more exciting as Walker's obviously 2/10 behind Utley, who's 2/10 behind Rich Smith, and it's just close battles all the way down the field.
And that is customary of GT3 racing. There is Utley in the number 14 Bentley. He's got Rich Smith in the 76 Lexus up ahead, and Aaron Walker chasing him down. Walker looking to strike back and actually get away from Jordan Ruddock in this particular occasion. Oh, Rich Smith has a moment. Oh, he collects Walker. Walker unsighted there, through into left field. Oh, crikey, Walker now in the second successive incident, and that's put him right into the jaws of Jordan Ruddock there. That is not what he wanted to happen. So Walker behind Pinchbeck is now trying to break the toe for Ruddock as they go through into... Oh, you could not... If Hollywood wanted a GT3... race scripts, I mean, we could probably throw this one at them and they still wouldn't believe it after nearly 25 minutes of racing.
Yeah, absolutely speechless there. That was so unlucky, and it just looked like on the face of it was just a racing incident as well. No one really to blame. It just just one of those things. Looks like Rich just lost it, and obviously with Aaron following so close, there was no time to evade. But it set us up. The battle's still close. Yeah, there he's just lost it on the and Aaron's not a chance there. He could avoid that.
Yeah, Gavin, I think got a bit of a get out of jail free card as Ruddock again behind Walker as Utley is in 11th place, and he's 1.6 seconds behind Dave Hedges in the 88 Audi. So we did, both of us before the racing started, as that's a very good run wide there from Jordan Ruddock, and there's also a car just behind. I think that is Kakos. Yeah, Lucas Kakos in the number 13 Lamborghini Huracan.
Yeah, Lucas, another man that's making his way through the field. At one point he was down into 25th, I believe, somewhere down there, so he's fighting his way through, and he's on the right day, he's definitely a top 10 contender, and he's a race winner with Simsport, so he's certainly got the pace, so I expect to see him fighting his way through a little bit further.
Yeah, definitely the case. And there we have James Hartnell. He's being chased down by Steve Hinden. Hinden's also made some great progress in the number 40 Aston Martin. And just up ahead of them is Stephen Haley. Stephen, who started on P3, now down in P7, as Girato and Martin Pilkington are a little bit further up the road. But I think one of the biggest things from my perspective, having really oh, now here we go. Hinden swarming all over the back bumper is going through into Maggots, Beckett's and Chapel. And that's a really good battle there. That's a four-way scrap that's really started to come a bit more prevalent here, Steve, with a little bit of dust kicking up from the right-hand side of the Aston Martin. But I think Hinden's really on it. He's got Hartnell under notice here.
Yeah, he's definitely looking to make a move as soon as possible. He's going to the outside there. I'm not quite sure that'll work, but always worth trying maybe a cutback, but not on this occasion. Maybe into the braking zone here, but we'll see. Hopefully clean. He's gone defensive.
Yeah. So Ruddock seems to be really, really pressurised here. That's on the top left corner of your screen, and though Walker is being hassled by Ruddock. This is a repeat of what we saw earlier, and I think really, as they say, once bitten, twice shy. Ruddock has now, I think, sort of learnt from what's happened, and I think just Aaron Walker has been completely unfortunate in this race, as I think Aaron's going to be sort of like thinking, I just really want to keep away from him.
I'm holding my breath. I just Aaron will obviously be looking to try and make a move on Pinchbeck to get a car between them. Not taking away anything from Jordan. He's a good driver. Just Aaron will be a little bit nervous, I would imagine, because all he's going to see in his mirror now is a Ferrari windscreen. I would imagine he probably can't even see the bonnet at this point. He
can probably see the light blue shading the bright yellow banana colour there on the car, but that's probably about as much as he can see. Here's a replay now. This is Mark Neuteling's up the inside of the number 8 of Henry Wardell, and oh no, Mark loses the back end, and he's got nowhere to go. But again, it's just about how hard these guys are pushing.
Yeah, I mean, you're pushing on the limits, and we always say, we're very surprised when we're doing lap after lap, when we're hot lapping, and you consistently round a 2-minute lap, you're still lapping within a tenth of a second every time. The consistency is key, and to do that, it takes a lot of practice, hours and hours, laps and laps. So these guys certainly put some commitment in.
And Regan Mitchell has just been turned around by Ranjiv Kalsi there. So Regan, again on the back foot now. That's a real shame for the number 69 Mercedes driver. He was looking really, really strong. He got up into the top 20, and now that has dropped him quite substantially down the order. So again, Regan Mitchell having to fight back after a top 10 finish last time out, as Walker and Ruddock at each other again. Pinchbeck just up ahead, and this is a 3-way scrap. This is for position. So I think it's really, Aaron Walker's got two things to decide on here, Steve. Am I going to go for Chris Pinchbeck and send it up the inside of him, or am I, as I am doing now, having to break the concentration and keep Jordan Ruddock at bay? It's difficult when you have this conundrum to deal with, as Ruddock goes towards the outside, heading into Village, and then he nearly got the inside run there, going through the loop. That would have been very, very close, but Walker's between a rock and a hard place right now.
Absolutely, yeah. He's going to be trying to push past Chris. I mean, what Chris is thinking, looking in his mirror and seeing those two cars weaving around behind him, I'm not quite sure. He's obviously going to be under pressure as well.
Yeah, yeah. So Stephen Haley, Stephen Haley lost the position there to Giarato in the 39R Motorsport blazed Aston Martin. That's for 6th place, and obviously Hartnell and Hinden not too far behind. So this is another 4-way scrap. But I think really, again, you've been saying this all the way through the first half an hour. So we've got 1 hour, 29 minutes and 40 seconds left on the clock. Local time, according to the server, 7:38 a.m. Track and air temperature equal at 13 degrees Celsius. And you can just see that even in the first half an hour, we're now a quarter through this race, Steve, and we've not... I think we've seen Novakovic. Novakovic looks to be our first driver in the pits at this particular moment in time, dropping from 15th position. Giarato goes a little bit wide, coming out of Stowe and heading into Vale, and that allows Stephen Haley to close up. Hartnell and Hinden. This is a great battle here, but again, Giarato runs wide. Haley gets the position back, going through club and onto the wing straights. That was close there, but now here comes Hartnell. He got the run on the pair of them. Up the inside of Stephen Haley goes Hartnell and takes the position in the 168 Ferrari. That was a great move, well timed by Hartnell there.
Absolute opportunities there, fantastic. You know, Steve will be fighting back now. He'll want to push his way back through there, and I'm sure he'll put James under some pressure now. But Giotto, obviously his first time racing with us, and he's taking some big scalps at the moment. He's really impressing this evening.
And he's also taking a few wide lines there as well in the process. But I think the thing is he's keeping it nice and clean. He's not trying to do anything untoward and cause any problems for himself in his first Simsport Racing event. But Ruddock and Walker still battling away, going towards Brooklands. Now this is where we saw now Jordan Ruddock, as you can see, has learnt his lesson, as in, I'm not going to outbrake myself going into Brooklands. I'm going to make sure it's nice and tidy. I can get a clean run on Aaron coming through Luffield. They're going to exit Luffield now, up the gears, up to third, up to fourth. I'm going to go through Woodcote at around 125 miles an hour across the start-finish line. And again, Walker just seems to be nailing the apexes, nailing the braking points, and also the power out of the corners. And that's quite important with the rear-wheel drive machine.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, you've got to be patient with these guys. You've got to get them on the apex. You've got to wait for it to turn in, so you can get on that power as soon as you can. That is scary close. The trust that he's putting in his own judgment there is amazing. It's just talent, you know. I mean, to run as close as that without actually taking anybody out, it's always side by side now. Yeah,
down the hanger straight we go. Who could get the run into Stowe? It looks like Aaron Walker. He's about nearly half a car length ahead. Walker will get the inside run. Ruddock's going to try, I think, possibly if he can, through the corner. He gets a great run out there through into Vale. And it's going to be tight going into Club, but he's going to go towards the outside. If you're going to think you're going to send it around the outside through Club and get the inside run through into that corner, Jordan Ruddock has just absolutely nailed it. And Lucas Kakos just behind. Now, that was very close coming out of Club down onto the wing straight here towards Abbey. And Kakos now all of the back bumper of Walker. That is going to be for 13th position as opposed to 12th, as Jordan Ruddock now starts to get a breakaway in the number 17 TP12 Kessel Racing Pro ranked Ferrari. Here's Joao Diaz, and that is the number 82 McLaren of Ian Tampkin under the Jensen Team Rocket RJN colours. And there is Jeffrey Wolf in the mix there too. Oh, Diaz runs wide.
Yeah, all these guys showing each other great respect, running as close as they are. Like you say, track limits coming into question a couple of times, but the game automatically, or should I say, the sim automatically handles track cuts and issues warnings. And once you get a set number of warnings, you will get a drive-through.
Yeah, so just keeping an eye on what's happening. I think we've got a few drivers now starting to pit. I think Girato might have gone in for a pit stop, which is the case, dropping in from what was around 5th position. So the number 39 might drop out of the top 10. So some drivers will have to, as Steve said earlier on. There goes Jeffrey Wolf up the inside of Joao Diaz in the number 26 Black Falcon Mercedes AMG GT3. So Wolf up into 18th position. And it's very, very good to see this close quarter racing, Steve, because, as you said, they are respecting each other. I'm sure that, you know, some will probably have their headphones and their microphones on mute whilst they're in the driver's Discord chat. But I think at the end of the day, some of them might just decide to mute and see if there's a bit of banter going on whilst they're all driving, going, oh, that was a bit of a hairy one going through maggots, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's important to remember that this is the second round of the championship, and it is only the second or third time some of these guys have raced together. So a big part of racing together is learning each other. So everyone's still on a learning curve, and some a little bit steeper than others. But yeah, it's good to see the close racing. Yeah, so Joao Diaz now is on the back bumper of Jeffrey Wolf as they head down to Stowe before they head into Vale. A couple of interesting tidbits of Joao, 26 years of age, running the number 26. He's from Macedo de Cavaleiros. He's 3 interesting facts. He's a musician, he's got a love for sim racing, and he loves getting behind the wheel of a go-kart. Top man. Yeah, he's definitely got a teacher's pet mark in my book, because I love karting and I also love sim racing from a commentator perspective and also spectating it as well. He said, if any, what real racing experience? He said, I wish I could do laps in a GT3. Well, you got the next best thing, mate. You're doing a really good job out there. And he said just his racing goals are always the same. Having fun and also finishing the races. Because as they say, Steve, to finish first you must finish. Absolutely, and I think we've seen a little bit of an issue for one or two of the faster drivers that have dropped down the field, and racecraft plays a big part of battling your way back through some of the slower drivers, because when you say slower drivers, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, because you may be talking 0.3, 0.4 of a second a lap slower. It's not a big difference. Just worth mentioning, there's probably about half a dozen cars that have actually completed a pit stop now. Some of the guys further down the field have been in and done whatever they're going to do, whether it be tyres and fuel.
Yep, so here is a replay. Oh, now that is the 135 Aston Martin. Oh, Gerard de Bar's involved in that one too. Unsighted. That's a real shame. And that was Gianluca Di Luca. Some of the drivers that have pitted. Girato, we already mentioned. Rich Smith has pitted. Steve Hinden has also pitted, along with quite a few others. Henry Wardell, Lucas Karkosh, Jordan Ruddock, Dave Hedges, Aaron Martin Pilkington. Chris Crossman has pitted, I believe, there as well. Dean Riley in the number 2, I think, has also pitted. So there's quite a lot of, there's a couple of drivers. Nicolas Girato has pitted twice, as has Gianluca Di Luca. As Jeffrey Wolf now battling for what is 15th position. I must be honest here, Ian Tamkin didn't really have a good showing at the Nurburgring, but he seems to be a little bit better here at Silverstone. He's running in the top 15 at the moment, yet to make a mandatory stop for one of the two. And really keeping the Ferrari at bay here is Ian.
Yeah, Ian's he's new to Simsport. He's been putting some laps in with us, and we've been helping him along with a little bit of coaching. Not that he needs a lot, but he's really showing that he's putting it all to pay this evening. Top 15, that's fantastic for him at the moment.
Mm-hmm. And again, Gerald Diaz getting in on the action. So three-way scrap. Oh, that was close. Oh, Jeffrey Wolf turns around Tapkin. Oh my goodness me! Great battle until that point. Real shame for Ian Tampkins, so he loses at least 2 positions. But I think at the end of the day, a little bit of rubbings racing, that might have just been the slightest amount of contact there, Steve, and it's just turned the 720S GT3 around.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I mean, racing. It's you get a little bit of contact. I'm a little bit disappointed in Wolf not waiting for Tampkin. It's one of our Simsport rules: is if you take somebody out where it blatantly was his fault there, he should have waited for him to rejoin in front, regardless of positions lost. So the stewards will look at that and they'll take that into account with any penalties given out.
Yeah, but obviously when we go to our next round, next up in just a couple of weeks' time, to Misano for 2 30-minute sprint races. And if you think a 2-hour GT3 extravaganza at Silverstone is one to go by, just wait until we go to Misano. The Misano World Circuit Marco Simoncelli, named after the late MotoGP rider running the number 58. I had the pleasure of being at Silverstone actually just after his passing. The amount of love for that man, absolutely brilliant. But it's hosted the DCM, amongst other things, where Alex Zanardi, we send our best wishes to the multi-time Paralympic gold medalist and also GT3 stalwart in his own right. He was due to take part in the Italian GT Open again with Roberto Ravaglia and Roll Motorsport in the in specially adapted BMW GT3 car. So get well soon, Alex. We're with you. Forza Alex, and pregando per Zanardi, praying for Zanardi. So we are coming to 40 minutes in. Steve, it's just... I really can't get over the fact that we are having a 2-hour race at Silverstone and they are absolutely not... they're not lifting off, which is the biggest thing that surprises me, because everyone wants to get one up on the other, but they want to have a lot of fun doing it as well and just really enjoy the immersive experience. And we keep on talking about the immersive experience, but from your perspective, having raced around Silverstone through previous championships, what are your favourite parts on the track?
Well, to be honest, Silverstone's always been my bogey track. It's not one that I've never really enjoyed that much. Although in recent races, I have got on to terms with it and had some reasonable results. But I just love when I'm racing it now. I enjoy the fact that with the right setup on the car, it is it's a fast track, and it is, you can race very, very close. That's the thing that I enjoy about it, is the fact that you can follow very close, and it is a fast track.
Yeah, and there's Mark Neutelings still. I
think
looking a little bit scuffed up on the left-hand side, poor Mark. But he's we've now got Utley, Kakosh, Wardell, and Wolf now in the pits.
You've got we've got. Sorry to interrupt there. Looks like we've got potentially Walker within a tenth of a second of Pinchbeck at the moment as well, and Haley's half a second off Hartnell. So they're all still as you say, pushing very hard up at the front. No one's giving up on any positions, and no one's treating it as an endurance race. It's a 2-hour sprint race, to be honest.
It's a bit like the last 2 hours of the Le Mans 24 Hours at La Sarthe. That's what it kind of reminds me of. But it's just really impressive how they are able to keep this pace, and as you say, they're doing a lot of training, a lot of hard work. And I'm just looking at the lead. I mean, I just noticed it was around 2.8 seconds between Critchley and Clifford Roberts. So that's really getting interesting, as we're about 18 minutes away from half time here, local time as per the server, 8:25 a.m. Here's Chris. So, sorry, you go for it, Steve.
No, I was just going to say, I believe that, I said at the beginning, I think the Porsche's harder maybe on the tyres, and I do think that that's an issue Kev Critchley's going to have to deal with, and that's probably one of the reasons Archie Roberts is gaining on him now. He'll be hunting him down. He'll have a more consistent feeling car rather than the Porsche, and that's potentially why that gap's closing. But yeah, I mean, obviously Martin Pilkington up into 4th place. I mean, where was he at the start of the race? He was about 18th, 19th, was he?
Yeah. It just goes to show that if you put your mind to it, you can accomplish anything. And here's Chris Pratt in the Hub Auto Corsa 28 Ferrari 488 GT3. For those wondering at home, the white coloured numbers on the left-hand side of your screen are the Pro category, the grey ones are Silver, and the red ones are the AM. Now that was not what Chris Pratt wanted from Magnus Beckett in Chapel. He's just straight-lined the whole thing. But obviously, that's how much when these drivers, because obviously with the ranking they accrue through Assetto Corsa Competizione, we'll see them go from AM to Silver to Pro. And it is a learning experience. It's not just about going for the race victory, but it's also about taking part, getting to know the people. People are very helpful in Simsport Racing. It's about promoting clean and fair racing. Everyone gets on with everybody. They don't have a bad word to say about each other. So like for people like Chris Pratt, it's a really good way of just pushing forward, as I see that Bowman in the number 12 Mercedes has got a stop go 30.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's done a pit stop, so that's potentially for speeding in the pit lane. That seems about right, the right sort of penalty for that. We've got a few of the top guys have pitted now. Pilkington, as I was just saying, how well he was doing, he's pitted, so he's dropped down to 10th. Diop's down to 9th, so that's promoted a few guys further up the field. So it'll be interesting to see what strategies they are running.
Yeah, that will be very, very interesting to see, and we will see as things proceed. 1 hour, 15 minutes and 43 seconds to go. There is Chris Pinchbeck in the number 43 Aston Martin, running under the Garage 59 colours, and not too far behind, I think, is that Aaron Walker behind him? I think, I'm not sure, can't really make out, but
yes,
yeah. So Aaron Walker now becoming the sort of recipient, but let's not forget he's got to still serve 2 mandatory pit stops. So this is the opportunities we see. Gerard de Bar and and that is Regan Mitchell. They're with each other right now. So Regan Mitchell looking to try and get past the number 20 Audi, running the Team Absolute Racing colours.
Yeah, Walker. I think Walker will be going up for the 60-minute pit stop, and then he'll be just swapping tyres and taking a little bit of fuel, I think, and then doing a splash and dash in the last hour, I would imagine. Regan Mitchell really pushing on. He's been really unlucky this race. He had a couple of incidents that weren't really his fault, pushed him back down the field, but credit to him, he's battling back, and he's still got time. He's got another 1 hour 14 minutes to get as high up as he can. He's done one of his pit stop as well, so that's worth bearing in mind, that he's only got one more to go, so he's possibly out of position on pit stops.
I think I'm very much in agreement there, because it's interesting about the different strategies that drivers will have as such as they proceed through the race. And now he's got a gap of nearly 6/10, having got past Gerard de Bar there quite cleanly, and I think that was through into club that he got the position back to him. And he's got a big mountain to climb, but then Gianluca De Luca from 23rd place now pits. in many respects. So, I think really, as you say, Steve, Regan Mitchell, he might have a bit of a mountain to climb, but he's got over an hour and 10 minutes to do it, to see if he can get into maybe, say, the top 15, so he can score points. And 15th place in terms of this race will be 24 in the bag. And it's quite interesting to see that with 30 minutes, it's 30-minute race. So if you get the double at Misano in a couple of weeks' time, you take 50 points away from both races. Then you got 50 for the 60-minute race, 75, which Chris Crossman got last time out at Nurburgring for our 90-minute season opener, but then 100. And it really will sort of change things around, because it's not just about looking at just one race. It's looking at the whole 10 race evening calendar over 20 weeks to look to make that assault towards a potential of being the champion for ACC Season 3.
Yeah, and just to throw something else into the mix, is because it's a 10-round championship over such a long period of time, we do drop the lowest scoring round for each driver as well. So there's points. If someone's scored in every round, some points will be taken away. The lowest scoring round will be deducted. So the calculators are going for the last round usually in our championships.
Hear those Casio calculators clicking away even at round 2. So in many respects, I think that's going to be a pretty interesting thing to see. Obviously, with the Paul Ricard season finale a little bit later on this year, and I think it's just to be a part of this is just wonderful to just see how these drivers develop, as Pinchbeck and Aaron Walker still battling away. They're now coming through Aintree onto the Wellington Straight, and Aaron's really got a good toe here on Chris, heading down into what is Brooklands. Gets a good braking from both drivers there, and they've got Abdoulaye Diop not that far behind either in the 910 Antelope Racing Audi to come through, power out through Luffield, up the gears once again, and they're going to take as much tarmac and curbing as they dare, going through Woodcote and across the start-finish line around nearly 140 miles an hour in 5th gear. Then heading into Cops, down through in braking from 149 or so. Now that was a bit of a run wide there from Chris Pinchbeck, and Aaron Walker there was just quite textbook and very much in his approach and just slingshotting past Chris going into Cops.
Yeah, I think Chris is showing great maturity and consistency in this race. He's been on camera quite a lot of time because he's been in the front of people battling him, but he's just kept his head down. He's kept putting the laps in. He's up to 7th place at the moment, albeit he's got 2 pit stops still to make. So let's see where he comes out once those are done. But he's just running his own race. You saw Aaron make the pass there, but Chris just slotted back in behind, and let's get on with it.
Yeah, he's got one of the Emil Frey Jaguars just behind in that iconic XKRS. I mean, for those wondering about me, at one point I did actually work at a Jaguar Land Rover dealer. We saw quite a few XKRSs, as in the road-going versions, not the GT conversions that Emil Frey brought to GT3 competition. And I've got I know someone who I actually work with that has this absolutely pristine. It's still in their unit, in his unit, absolutely priceless, dark metallic red XKRS, and it's got like 1,500 miles on the clock, personalised plate and everything, and it's about 8 years old. Absolutely fantastic, immaculate example.
Just to jump in there, I'm noticing that Archie Roberts has pitted. He closed the gap down to 1.5 seconds to Kev, and he's decided to come into the pits. So let's see where all this comes out in the wash as it works. He was obviously maintaining a faster pace than Kev. Yeah,
Stephen Haley looks to have pitted as well. There's Girato getting past Neuterlings for what is P11, but Girato's already done 1 pit stop. It looks like he's been in the pits twice, probably once for a track limits infraction, which has meant a stop-go penalty. But Neuterlings still having to yet make a first mandatory pit stop out of 2, and just behind there's Joao Diaz and I think that's Steve Hinden. Yes, that's a great battle there for P13, but Hinden has pitted, Diaz has not at the moment, as Neuterlings runs a bit wide going through into Luffield there as Girato powers out of the corner.
Yeah, let's see. Just looking at the Archie and the Kev situation. Obviously, Archie was quicker, 1.5 seconds behind. Pitted, he's going for the undercut, so will Kev respond and pit maybe a little bit earlier than he was planning? Not sure, because I think Archie may make the overtake on the pit stops.
Yeah, if he's done, done a really good undercut there. So there is the man himself, as they say, speak of the devil, and he doth appear. And he's right behind. It's Chris Pinchbeck. So, as you said, Chris is just doing the long game, really doing the long game here, and to be in sixth position. We've completed now 26 laps of Silverstone, thanks to Kevin Critchley. It's all about the long game. It's all about the strategy. You can't take anything to chance, and the drivers will still be calculating things in their mind. So I can probably hear those brain cogs going like the clappers with about 40 different drivers at the moment as they're trying to circumnavigate their way around Silverstone. They've either got their triple screen set up, the VR set up, and they are pushing like absolutely crazy. And I'm seeing that both Kevin and Chris are top two, running anywhere between a 1 minute 58.6 and a 1 minute 59.3 at the moment in terms of pure lap pace. But Kevin just seems to be really, really on it at the moment, as Neutelings, Kelsey and Barr have all now pitted from 22nd, 23rd and 24th place.
Yeah, and I think Archie's got the move done on Mr. Pinchbeck there. Chris obviously defended a little bit, but realised that probably wasn't his race anyway, so not defended too hard and let Archie go by and settle him back into his groove. Advertisers would pay a fortune to be on Pinchbeck's car in this race, because he's been a camera magnet all race long, I think.
Yeah, he's had plenty of screen time. I think Bayliss and Harding will probably have to send him a few free samples or two with the back bumper of that Garage 59 Aston Martin. But really nice to see. I mean, through my travels in the paddock, obviously Team WRT are not just aligned with GT3. They've Vincent Voss and the team in Belgium. Really great people. I do also have a very distinct interest in DTM, the Deutsche Tourenwagen Masters. They also race in that with Ferdinand von Habsburg. I think they've also got Fabio Scherer and Ed Jones, formerly of IndyCar, in DTM this year, which gets their season underway very, very soon. But lovely to see all this wonderful cacophony of colour on GT3 cars here, Steve. Just such a diverse range of colours. I mean, obviously the Team Rocket, Jensen Team Rocket RJN colours. That's the one that James Baldwin, world's fastest gamer 2 winner, he's running in that car this year in those very colours in the 22. It's just really good to see that the amount of diversity of colour is just an indication of just how colourful GT3 racing has become, and the liveries sometimes have just been absolutely stand out.
Yeah, and this season we decided to promote the fact of using the in-game liveries rather than the custom skin editor. Mm-hmm. It just brings a little bit more realism to it, and as you say, it looks good. It's visually pleasing. So yeah, the guys have done a great job picking the teams, and the guys who organised the entries, making sure not everybody picked the same skin teams, as it were. Some great looking cars.
Yes, indeed they are. Indeed they are. It's wonderful, whatever motorsport category that you love, whether it's GT3, single-seaters, touring cars, Formula Fords, even the old radio-controlled cars, which still actually, there's a lot of that going on in Europe still to this very day. If you are a motorsport fan and the goosebumps go on the back of your neck when a race car sounds up, even if it's virtual, you know that you're a true petrol head through and through, and I'm definitely one of them. That's why I've ended up talking. You know what they say is those that can't drive talk about it, and I've definitely ended up being one of them for the last 3 seasons or so.
So we're just watching Archie flashing his lights there as he laps. I'm not sure if it's Ian Tampkin he's lapping, but he's lapping someone. Interestingly, though, he's coming up behind Hedges, who's obviously his teammate. So will team orders come into play? Will Hedges let him by? Because Hedges has got 2 stops to make, so he's technically out of position, which I think he's just done that. Yeah,
that's definitely the case. Not a problem at all. So 1 hour, 4 minutes, 35 seconds, and here is Dave Hedges, yet to make a pit stop, but still plenty of time left for him to serve them. Rich Smith and the number 76 Tech 1 Racing Lexus RCF GT3, used by Jimmy Vassar's car company over in the US. Trying to remember that. I know that Shane Van Gisbergen was running in their colours in the IMSA virtual season that happened in the last couple of months or so whilst we've been in lockdown. But I think one of the biggest things is that by being able to provide this opportunity for people to, irrespective of their daytime job, whether they're a student or whether they're in IT, or no matter what walk of life you come from, you can do an Emanuele Pirro, do the old desk version like you did in the race for that, but then you can still have the opportunity to get yourself a set of pedals, a gaming PC, your monitors and everything, and still have a really good laugh doing it. And that's what I love about Simsport, that it's the fact that it's welcoming everybody. As here we have Kevin Critchley having a really good. Now look at the gap he's got. Now Chris Pinchbeck. Now Dave Hedges is in the pit, so obviously Chris Pinchbeck. Now where's Chris Crossman? Yep, he's done his pit stop, so he's down in 8th behind Aaron Martin Pilkington. Dewap has also had a pit stop, and Clifford Roberts has also had a pit stop. So we're waiting for the likes of Critchley, who's on your screen. He's got around a 40-second gap, I believe, over Hartnell, the 168 Sky liveried Ferrari. But yeah, it just shows how sim racing, I think a lot of people, it's not a substitute for real life racing. It was here we go, Critchley's in the pits, there's Kakos. But Steve, the fact that sim racing has really exploded, because obviously there was something that needed to help sort of bridge that void that we've had over the past, I think from my perspective, I did my first circuit commentary yesterday in 120 days. And that's quite a lot when you mentioned that amount of, a 3-digit number. But sim racing has really come to the fore for a lot of people, and it's really being embraced so much more now by the general community, not just on social media, but people in general, because they're having to do something in the meantime to keep themselves ready for when they return into real life racing.
Yeah, and I think the sims are evolving and they're getting better and better and better. And I mean, in ACC, the guys are using Motec, which is real world software to set cars up to get to look at overlays and see how suspension's performing, steering inputs, throttle input. So there's a lot of serious stuff out there that makes it more realistic and allows you to get more involved with car setups and things like that. It's not just point and click and guess anymore. As we see Kev leaving the pits now, it'd be interesting to see where he comes out in relation to Archie.
Yeah, so there is Lukas Kakos. We are 90 minutes away, as Joel Diaz has got a stock go 30 for his troubles, and he's also in the pits too. So I think the 26-year-old not having a great run at the minute. There is Kakos, the only Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo that is being used in Simsport Racing Assetto Corsa Competizione Season 3. There is Archie Clifford Roberts, and he is currently in P3. No, he's P2 as Hartnell's now pitted. Hartnell has now pitted.
And that is Kev in front of Archie as well. The gap is still at 1 second.
Ooh, now this is definitely looking very, very interesting. And the anticipation again, when you get a battle for the lead, we've seen some great battles up and down the order. I mean, from a real life perspective, yesterday I was doing a 4-hour commentary at Rye House, and the top 3 were line astern for 50 minutes, and it was a 4-hour endurance race, and I was absolutely gobsmacked. But I still get gobsmacked coming back to commentate on this kind of racing, and it's just as exciting, because with the twists and turns, you don't know what is going to transpire, who might have an incident, who might have a stock go 30, who might have actually decided, I've run a bit short on fuel. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're halfway through round 2 here at Silverstone, 60 minutes down, 60 to go.
And 1 second separating first and second place.
That's incredible. I mean, Archie Clifford Roberts has been on absolute fire, and Kevin Critchley must be thinking, hang on, has he had his Weetabix this morning? Because he's definitely got the fire in the belly stoked, as they now go through into
Archie's he's got the hammer down, but there's not going to be an easy pass on Kev, I can tell you that for nothing. Kev will he'll drive his lines, and the speed differential, as we've said before, it won't be that great that it's easy for Archie to make a move anywhere. He's going to have to force a move somewhere. He's going to have to open a door that's potentially closed, but it's going to be good to watch.
Well, they do say a little bit of rubbing's racing, as long as you don't turn someone into a spin. Chris Pinchbeck now pits in the number 43 Garage 59 Aston Martin. And down into Stowe goes Archie Clifford Roberts. And the gap now, 0.933 of a second, and getting closer and closer all the time. Drive through now for Aaron Martin Pilkington.
Oh, that's a real shame. Real shame. Wow. He'd made fantastic progress, and he's in a genuine 4th place. So that's not good. Just to go back to what you were saying about the realism as well, and the immersion of it all, things like this, the stream. When we announced that we were streaming this season, that created a real buzz for the guys, because they know that everything they do now, it's potentially on screen for everyone to see. They finish the race, they can go back, they can watch it, and it's not just a replay file from ACC. It's actually on YouTube, Twitch, wherever they can go watch it and review it back with myself commentating, and it just adds that extra bit of realism. They've got the friends, the family watching, and hopefully lots of people are sharing the stream.
Yeah, well, I can see that we have had some comments in. We've got a thumbs up on the on Simply Race YouTube channel. Obviously, there's those watching on the Simsport Racing channel. Let me not forget to head to the official website if you want to sign up for a reserve. I know that there are places available for reserves. If memory serves me correctly, Steve, you can head to simsport-racing.com and sign up. But there are people, as you say, it is going to chop and change over the next. After this one, it's going to be 60. It's going to be another 18 weeks, but another 8 race evenings. It's going to be quite interesting that people will be able to sort of sign up to it, and if they've got a bit announced about Assetto Corsa Competizione, and they've got a car that they can run with and everything they can use. Now, someone's gone off very, very wide there. Now, who was that? That was I think that might have been Joel Diaz or maybe Regan Mitchell there. That's just gone off the track there. So, yeah, I mean, people can still sign up as a reserve and, log on to the Discord channel and sort of like say hi and introduce themselves, that kind of thing, can't they?
Absolutely, and Simsport's more than just this league. We do have other things going on. We've got other things in the pipeline. Everyone's welcome to sign up. We have public servers open. We usually have admin on most of the time on evenings, and there's normally always somebody in Discord if you just want to have a chat, ask a few questions. Got a few very knowledgeable guys, tech-wise, and guys like me who just like to talk. So it's a good community to be part of, and we're all looking forward to the GT4 cars being released this month, and let's see what happens there. There may be a championship with those.
Yeah, 11 cars, including the KTM Cross Expo GT4. There's James Hartnell going round the outside of Steve Hinden, who now is he flashing? He's flashing his lights. What is Steve Hinden doing? I mean,
I think that's just the endurance lights that are on. I don't think he's flashing them. I think that's just the graphics of the.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, I don't think my eyesight is quite what it once was. Now I'm showing my age, but that was a great move there from Ruddock on Artley there, going through Maggots, Beckett, and Chapel. He really got a good run on him as. I think, yeah, that's Ruddock in the background. Here's Hartnell. He's got Hinden behind, and Hartnell getting a bit tighter going through into Village and then into the left at the loop there. But yeah, I mean, Ruddock really starting to come good, and he's made his first pit stop. We've got a yellow out on circuit with just over 55 minutes of the race remaining, but I think that's a really good comeback. I think not just from Ruddock, but also Aaron Walker, who has also pitted. They are both starting to move forward, and they know that they've got an opportunity to get themselves into a points-paying position. And it is not about getting, okay, I might not be able to get top 5. I could get top 10 if I'm lucky, and I've still got a chance.
Absolutely, it's a long season. It's not a one-off race, so they need to just keep their heads down as they are doing, drive to the checkered flag and pick up as many points as they can, and that's what the guys will do. They all understand that. Those two guys in particular have been racing with us for a few years now, so they know the score. That's what they'll be doing. Right,
Steve Hinden has pitted once again. So that gives Jordan Ruddock 7th position. Hinden down into the top 10. So it looks like that Stephen Haley could take that position. So could end up in the top 10 in the number 24 Audi. Dave Hedges has had a bit of a resurgence too, I see, up into 12th, ahead of Aaron Walker. Chris Pinchbeck in 14th, ahead of Dean Riley. Smith, Wardell, Wolf, Mitchell and Neutlings rounding out the top 20, but Martin Pilkington's race, I think, Steve, with the drive-through, that has really... Oh, and there is Martin Pilkington. What has happened here? that's a real shame for the number 626, the Oman Racing with TF Sport liveried Aston Martin. What has happened there on earth?
Yeah, it'll be an interesting one to look back on through the replay afterwards and see what happened to him. He's not had a great race. Obviously, a fantastic first half when he got up into 4th place, but he's just got that drive through and.
Yeah, I think he might have just parked it there. I mean, there doesn't look like there was any damage or anything. Here's Rhys Wiggin in the number 667 Optimum Motorsport McLaren.
Another stop-go penalty for Santoro, down in 32nd. He's completed both pit stops, but he's now got a stop-go, unfortunately.
I think that's possibly for speeding in the pit lane.
Yeah, maybe. I see a couple of the guys. Yeah, I see Steve Hinden's done both his pit stops, so he's free to race to the checkered flag now, and he's come out in 20th. There's a couple of the other guys further down the field have also done both pit stops. So it should all start to pan out soon as the other guys do their stops, and we see how the field lies.
Yeah, Gianluca De Luca is actually one of the other ones as well too. So Gianluca having a good run this time around. And I've just switched to the Simsport Racing YouTube channel. You'll be pleased to hear, Steve.
Thank you.
22 watching, 7 thumbs up so far. We've had Carlos Pinto saying, let's go Nuno. Ames Walker has gone, good luck, Aaron. Carlos Pinto has said, well, I'm actually going to ask Carlos this. Do you really want us to show you where Nuno Martins is at the moment? And Kevin Elmser says, why are there no more subscriptions to this? And I was just like thinking, you know what? Guys, girls, share. Please share as much as you can. That's all we need. We just want to have a great community for you people to come and watch a live stream dedicated to this Assetto Corsa Competizione Season 3 Championship. I know I'm going to be able to do the majority of the rounds because obviously I've got other commitments as well myself, which I'm glad I'm around for the majority of the championship. But you'll hear a couple of other voices, hopefully, apart from mine. Chris Buxton, also known as King Kodiak, will be at some point on the stream himself. There's Chris Crossman. And we haven't really talked a lot about Chris. He's just been getting on with business here, hasn't he? He's got Dupe, and I think he's just got past the 47 Rinaldi Racing Ferrari of Ranjiv Kalasi. But you know, Chris Crossman, I think he's just trying to play the long game in terms of the standings, isn't he, here, Steve?
Yeah, Chris is a real racer, as it were, in the respect that he'll just keep going. He'll gain his points throughout the season. He always talks himself down at the beginning of the race, saying he's struggling, he's not. And I take the mickey out of him because he's always up there in the top 5, top 4. He always tries to play it down and take the pressure off himself. But he's certainly close enough to Diop, and hopefully he's going to have a nice battle with Abdullah there.
Yeah, definitely the case. I think with regards to it, we'll find that you never know that Chris Crossman could make some inroads, and there is Duke just up ahead. So I think one of the good things about this, Steve, is with the coming back to the championship rounds that we've got. You know, we're going to some fantastic circuits, and out of those circuits, I know it's a bit like saying which of my favourite drivers is it going to be? It's like, what is your favourite track, or what are your top 3 favourite tracks out of the circuits that we're going to here in ACC Season 3 for Simsport Racing?
Oh, that's putting me on the spot.
That's what a commentator is meant to do.
Yeah. First stream commentating, and you're putting me on the spot with questions like that. I mean, I believe we've got Zolder on there. That's a great circuit. One of the circuits that's not maybe on there that I would have liked to see myself personally is Zandvoort. I love that track, and historically all the rounds I've always done really well there. I just love it. It's absolutely awesome. I don't know. It's difficult because the way the sims are with the realism and everything. If you said you can drive a GT3 car, you wouldn't really care what track you were going to race it at, would you? You'd just get in it and drive it, and that's what it's like with this sim. Yeah, you perform better at some than others, but you just want to race, and that's what you want. It's not so much about what track you're on. You want racing like this. I mean, look how close these guys are, and you just want to be part of that and part of the community. So yeah, I mean, you know, Brands actually is another good circuit as well, although it's a little bit tight and twisty and difficult, but it's a good circuit all the same. So there's Zolder, Zandvoort and Brands, and Zandvoort's my joker, because I know it's not in this season's lineup, but yeah, it's my favourite.
Well, let's hope we can see that for season 4, possibly. I mean, that's a track that I love as well, Circuit Zandvoort. I visited it on my first overseas motorsport writing assignment for the DTM, where Mike Rockenfeller, who is a stalwart within GT3, he's actually raced at the ADAC 24 Hours of the Nurburgring, amongst other things. He's been a works Audi driver for many, many years. Yeah, that's an iconic track. Obviously, it's a bit different now with Formula One's involvement, but yeah, Jupe and Crossman were separated by just over 1/10 of a second last time out, as we got yellow flags out on track. Coming to the last 48 or so minutes here at Silverstone, 10:24 a.m. Track temperature now 19 degrees Celsius, air temperature 16, and it's looking a bit more cloudy overhead. But good to see that the track temperatures are increasing. That's going to help some of the cars to push forward.
Yes, Crossman's trying to push past Abdullah here, and I'm just looking further down on that leaderboard on the left, and you've got Kakos within 2/10 of Utley in the Bentley, trying to push past him as well, and that's a storming drive from Lucas in 9th, because he's come from a fair way back.
Yeah, very much the case. So, yeah, he's got past Utley. That's P8 in the bag for the Lamborghini. And that's a car I would have. I mean, obviously, let's look at it this way from a perspective that Audi and the Lamborghini have the same V10 engine in the back. They have the same drivetrain, but they have a very, very different skin. But in other respects, what a lot of people don't realise is that you have a Lamborghini that is meant to be fast, brash, aggressive, powerful in the way that it's styled, and the Audi is a bit like the sleeper. And that's very much the true sort of sense of the word in GT3 racing, both virtually and in a realistic sense. But in the sim world, the Audi, I've seen that there's more of them. And we've only got Lucas being the sole Lamborghini driver in this ACC Season 3 Championship. And just to see how he's moving forward through the field, having a difficult qualifying, that car's really coming alive now in the latter stages.
Yeah, I was watching somebody else's stream just the other day, and they commented, somebody said to them, what's the best way to progress with ACC and sim racing in general? And the answer was pretty much with what I would agree with, is basically pick a car, stick with it, and go for it. There's no really bad cars in ACC, and it's all about getting a setup on the car and sticking with it and putting the laps in, because there's no substitute for track time. You've just got to put those laps in and pound the miles out and get the laps done, and you'll get quicker and quicker.
Yeah, I'm seeing still that I think there are a couple of drivers that I haven't seen actually do a first pit stop yet towards the top end. So looking quite interesting. I mean, obviously we've still got some people from sort of like Dave Hedges and below where they've made one pit stop. They've still got another one to make. So now we're going to get into that moment. I think that the key talking point now, Steve, is with regards to the strategy for the last 45 or so minutes. It's about who's going to pull the pin on the grenade and decide, right, I'm going to leave it to the absolute last moment. And they'll be looking at the fuel levels. They'll be looking at the amount of litres per lap they're using, whilst also trying to maybe in some points, they're going to go for it, but they're going to upshift a little bit early. They're going to short shift and allow the momentum to carry through the corners in some respects too, aren't they?
Yeah, and I mean, you've got such as Chris Crossman here, who's no doubt about it, he's being held up now because he's right on the back bumper of Abdullah, and he's got another pit stop to make. So depending on what he's doing tyre-wise, but you would think, well, should he just go in there, do his splash and dash and get the pit stop out of the way and maybe come back onto the track? But then when you look at the timings on the track, who's he going to come out with? There's no easy overtakes out there, not in the top 15 certainly. So it's a difficult one to call strategy-wise. When do you pull the pin and make that last and final pit stop, and to see where you're going to pan out? They'll make the decisions, and it'll all come good at the end, I'm sure. Chris he'll still be there.
Yeah, Durato pits from P5, so that'll be number 39R Motorsport Aston Martin's last pit stop. Chris Crossman really now trying to size up Duke for a move, and now that is how you come out of a corner very, very quickly, looking to try and make sure it happens as they go through the right at Abbey, into the left at Farm Curve. They're pushing over 130 miles an hour as they'll then get quickly on the anchors down into Village. Duke takes the tighter line. Crossman really does a bit of a late braking job there, down into first gear through the loop. Let's see if Crossman in the Porsche gets a good run. He does.
Oh, he's got
That's
the
a great
cutback.
move. Absolutely great move. I think Duke might have just lost it. He's run wide, all four wheels off. Oh, onto the grass he goes, kicking up the dust in the Audi. But great textbook move there by Chris Crossman as they head into Brooklands.
Absolutely fantastic racing there from both guys. Brilliant drive from Chris there. He made the move and he's made it stick. He was very difficult for the Porsche, as I've said before. The Audi's got the legs on it, and Chris did really well to make that move. Just looking further down there, and I mean, we've got Walker and, dare I say it, Pinchbeck again, and Riley all there within a second and a half, battling close. So that's Chris still getting into the thick of it. There's battles all the way down. It's absolutely awesome racing.
Right, here's a little bit of a replay here. And this is one Ferrari on another. Oh, no. That is the number 47 of Kalsi. Now, what was the other car that was involved? I'm thinking, was it Isailovic? Possibly looks like the 111 that was the one that was involved there. And that was for 23rd position on the road. And Isailovic, I mean, he had an absolute disaster at the Nurburgring. He was one of the 4 cars that got collected in the Turn 1 incident. And again, for the second race for Adam Isailovic in a row, I really feel sorry for him, because some drivers get all the luck and then some drivers just get absolutely none whatsoever. It's part of how you learn in your development as a sim racer.
Absolutely, and those guys are 2 great guys that are always on Discord, always there chatting away. 2 very friendly chaps, so I'm sure they'll just get their head down, get on, and just put it down to experience. Oh
no, that's the number 12 and the 18. That's Chris Bowman in the Ram Racing 12, and in the 18, that was Nuno Martins. I'm sorry, Carlos Pinto. That's probably what you didn't want to see just then. Nuno Martins just going into the side of the Ram Racing Mercedes. Well, we try and please everybody, as Wardell has now pitted from P16 in the number 8 Porsche. But Chris is really starting to get some legs on Abdullahi. That is about 1.6 seconds. There is Nuno Martins. Not exactly what he wanted. And Santoro looks like he's in the pits. He's got to stop go 30. Gerard Zabar in the pits. Chris Pratt in the pits. Wardell in the pits. So I think probably I think really with a lot of drivers not having made their second stop yet, I mean, including these 2 here, James Hartnell and Jordan Ruddock, 2 Ferrari 488 GT3s battling it out over what is 5th on the road. And Ruddock has really, after his initial contretemps, let's say, between him and Aaron Walker, has really come good. 41 minutes exactly on the clock remaining. He's really started to come good, and the temperature's now coming up, so it's going to help the Ferraris a little bit here, because he's now going to try and see if he can put the frighteners on James Hartnell. Track temperature 21 degrees, air temperature 17 degrees, so it's probably with the way that the weather is looking at the moment, it's looking a bit cloudy, a little bit muggy out there, but it's helping the tyre temperatures and the brakes for all the drivers concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like Jordan's going to maybe try and make a move here. He's tucked right up behind James and in the slipstream.
Yeah, down Hanger Straights, heading towards Stowe. Pulling to the outside is Ruddock. And he's going to try and sweep in. It's a really good judgment call there, as they're now going to go through into Vale. He's about half a car length behind Hartnell, down into Club. Now, is he going to do a repeat of earlier? He is. He is. Can he get it done, though? That's the biggest thing. No, he runs a little bit wide. Oh, a little bit of front wing panel bashing there. But Jordan Ruddock does exactly what he did earlier on, and he's just done a great move. And here is Lukas Kakos. Kakos, again, he's come from absolutely nowhere. I mean, the Lamborghini has been scything its way silently through the field like an Italian assassin. And has just really done a great job as Rich Smith comes in for the final time in the Lexus RCF from what is 15th on the road So great job there, Steve, wouldn't you agree, from Jordan Ruddock? Absolutely timed it well.
Absolutely, it's perfect. It was almost a carbon copy of the move on Walker earlier on, although the little bit of paint was traded there, but I think that was just a bit of race rub in there, nothing too dramatic. But yeah, as you say, Lucas right on the back of these two now, and I'm sure he'll be looking to try and put a move on Hartnell as well. James is an outstanding driver himself. Hartnell, really good lad, really quick on his day. So he'll not make it easy for Lucas, but yeah, Lucas has done really well to get up to 7th place from way down on the grid.
Yes, both Karkosh and Utley now serving their final pit stops here at Silverstone. Just under 39 minutes to go. Local time as per the server, 11:02 a.m. And here is Stephen Haley now up into what is going to be 7th position as he goes past the pits in the Hitotsuyama 24 Audi R8 LMS GT3 Evo.
Yeah, I'm thinking the guys that are pitting now, Alex. Sorry to interrupt. I think they'll be taking tyres. These are the guys that are probably taking tyres on both pit stops, and then the top guys that aren't pitting will probably pit. Some of them maybe even with less than 10 minutes to go. I'll just go in for a 1 litre of fuel and come out. So you'll see some more or less just drive-throughs.
Yeah, Abdoulaye Diop has also pitted in the 910 Santalok Racing Audi. So Stephen Haley now in P6, and Hartnell is now a further 0.8 of a second, so away from Ruddock. But Archie Clifford Roberts has done a really good job in P2 at the moment, but Critchley, quite crucially here, has got 7.2 seconds in hand. It is about a case of trying to see if he can push a little bit further forward, but not push the car too hard, let's say here, Steve, as Haley wrestles his way through into Abbey and Farm Curve.
Yeah, it's Kev's obviously impressive. He's found a bit more pace and he's pushing on, and he's got that gap. But now, obviously, we know Archie came good in the second half of his stint. So let's see what happens this time. It's not all over. I think that gap will come back down again.
Very much the case. So it's for the victory. It's either going to be bragging rights for Stuttgart or Ingolstadt here at the home of British motorsport. Silverstone for Simsport Racing Assetto Corsa Competizioni Season 3 Round 2. So at the moment, out of the top 20 drivers, I see that Wardell's pitted, Rich Smith has pitted, Utley's pitted, Hinden, Karkosh, Girato and Diop. Everyone else still yet to make their second and final mandatory pit stop. But Steve Haley really doing a good job here. He's 13.7 seconds behind Hartnell in the 168 Ferrari. But altogether, though, Steve, we're nearly 3/4 of the way through this race, and it's really got a really good rhythm about it and a good atmosphere about what we could see towards the end of the race.
Yeah, and I don't think we've seen the best of some of the drivers yet. I think they're putting the laps in, they're keeping the heads down. Once we get these pit stops done, then I think we'll be racing to the checkered flag. I think first and second, that gap will close between Archie and Kev. I think it could be almost as close as the last round with Steve Haley and Chris Crossman, maybe. But let's hope.
Yep. So Gavin Utley running in the Bentley Team M Sport colours. M Sport based in Cumbria, run by the venerable Malcolm Wilson. Obviously, there was the big news quite recently that M Sport were withdrawing as a works entry within GT3, which is a shame. Obviously, with the current situation in motorsport, it's not been easy for a lot of teams, both manufacturer entries but also privateers, where they're having to find the budget for it. But good to see that the 100 livery is on that car. There is the Tempesta Racing liveried Ferrari 488 GT3 of the 168 of James Hartnell still circulating in P5, but already, Jordan Ruddock, Steve, has pulled out a gap of nearly 2.3 seconds in just around about 7.3 miles here at Silverstone.
Yeah, it's a good recovery drive from Jordan. Obviously, had those incidents earlier on, but he is a quick driver. He's kept his head down. He's not let the incidents affect him. He's basically got points in the right direction and got going again, and he is up into probably what is almost a genuine 4th place. So Abdullah's in 10th. What we're seeing here.
Oh, now that is Joao Diaz on hitting the back bumper of the 28 Ferrari, which is Chris Pratt in the Hub Auto Corsa Ferrari. He's currently running in 29th position at the moment, so Joao Diaz was trying to put a lap on him. Right, Jordan Ruddock has now pitted for the final time with around 34.5 minutes remaining on the clock. So he is the first one out of the second one out of the top 10 to now serve all 2 pit stops, mandatory in this 2-hour race here.
Yeah, it's Abdullah that we're looking to come round and see if he comes round in front of Jordan, or whether Jordan maintains a position in 4th or 5th.
Yeah, Reese Wiggin has just pitted in the 667 Optimum Motorsport McLaren 720S GT3. And there's Mark Neutelings, not too far behind. Now, there's Regan Mitchell just up ahead. So Regan has done a really good job in the 69. But I'm just wondering how many pit stops I think has he done 1 pit stop already? And I think he's still got 1 more to serve.
Yeah, Regan and Mark have both got 1 more pit stop to serve, according to the screen there. So, yeah, they're both actually racing for actual position there.
And a good recovery, as you said. It's not been an easy race for Regan, and I think Mark has had his own fair share of dramas here. So we're fast approaching 33 minutes left on the clock to go. And it is still between Kevin Critchley in the number 15 Porsche and the 96 Audi of Archie Clifford Roberts, with Chris Crossman, our winner from round 1 at the Nurburgring 2 weeks ago for the 90-minute encounter, rounds out the provisional rostrum at the moment. Stephen Haley and Dave Hedges and Aaron Walker ran out the top 7 ahead of Chris Pinchbeck, Abdoulaye Diop, and Nicholas Girato running out the top 10 in the 39R Motorsport Aston Martin. But yes, some really great battles. We've seen we've seen some good racing. We've seen some incidents that I don't think drivers wanted to be involved with. Let's be quite frank and honest about that. But at the end of the day, as here goes Mark Neutelings trying to go up the inside of Regan Mitchell, going through into Village and then into the Loop. It's not going to be easy for Mark to do this, because let's not forget that the Bentley is one of the heavier GT3 cars that is actually being used by teams at the moment in real life.
Yeah, I think it's all about getting the entry exit to corners correct, and getting on that power as quick as you can, but that's not easy. He's trying to pass the AMG there, which isn't a slow car in its own right, so and Regan, like I say, he's a very consistent driver. He can hit those apexes lap after lap and put the same lap times in. He's top man. Did a sterling job at the 12 Hours of Silverstone just last week, so certainly had plenty of practice here.
Yes, quite a few notable people that I've seen racing with ACC, such as Josh Martin, Tobin Lee, to name just a few of those drivers who are working with teams. I know that Josh was actually running in the Team Parker colours in SRO Esports in GTs quite recently, running the Bentley Continental. He's also taken part in the Team Brit Summer Series. As we are fast approaching, okay, Jeffrey Wolf now pitting from P15. Daniel Parker has just pitted in the number 6. So it's Daniel Parker and Richard Pixley. So Richard is currently in 25th position in the leading Emile Frey Jaguar Racing XKS GT3. And here is Gavin Utley closing on Steve Hindon. And these two have both served their pit stops. And now, which one of the Jaguars is that behind? I think that is Richard, because I think Daniel has been into the pits as such. So really good battle here now. This is for position, and Gavin looks to be a bit aggressive going into Village and then into the left at the Loop, trying to do the cutback here. And as you said, very much the same for Gavin as it is for Mark Neutelings here, Steve, because they're trying to maximise the corner exit, get the slipstream. And now here we go, down the Wellington Straight, heading towards Brooklands. Gavin pulls out nice and early and gets the move done even before the braking zone. Yeah,
but he's just missed out there. He just couldn't hold it in there, and Hindon's got back round him again. But Gav did exactly what he needed to do on the lead onto the straight there. He took a slightly different line, which allowed him just to get on the power that bit sooner. So he had the run on Mr. Hindon there, but just couldn't hold the tight enough line to keep the position. But yeah, I'm sure he'll try and do it all over again on the next lap.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just the funny thing is that when you deal with so many different championships, one of which was going on this weekend, I'm getting messages on my WhatsApp from Belgium, and it's just like, no, go away, phone's on silent, do not disturb. Gavin Utley now nearly loses it there through into Beckett's and Chapel Curve. So in many respects, a really good job by Gavin there. I mean, he was running really, really well there too, up in the top 10. So
he's certainly got the speed on Steve Hinden. Because he's closed the gap up again. He lost a bit of time when trying to do that pass, and he's closed it back up again. So I've no doubt that he's going to get back in close enough and have another go. Just noticing though that Kev Critchley in first place has extended that gap to nearly 10 seconds now, so he's still pulling out time on Archie in second place, and Mr. Crossman's 30 seconds down the road from Archie in third.
Seems like that Porsche is well and truly planted to the asphalt, and getting away from the Audi is Utley.
Gav's making a move again, yep.
Yep, as Steve Hinden, I think, just outbrakes himself there, going into the loop, or just misjudged it, and Gavin was there to pounce like Sher Khan from the Jungle Book coming out of the reeds. Now onto the Wellington Straight. That's the thing about us commentators, and I'm glad you've been able to experience it firsthand, the amount of vernaculars that we can come out with. It does help to fill a little bit of time, doesn't it?
It does. I'm just not quite sure when to mute my mic, though. That's the problem. Just chuckling away at some of the comments, but it's been great.
I think at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. We are here to entertain, in many respects, because we're here to help you tell the stories. That was Giurato going a bit wide there, through Chapel Curve and onto the Hangar Straight, so he's lost a bit of time to Chris Pinchbeck. The gap now nearly 2 seconds between the pair there. Yeah, Chris, as you said, he's still got another pit stop to have, and I've seen that Critchley's now on lap number 47. Clifford Roberts yet to serve a second pit stop, as has Crossman, as has Hartnell, Haley, Hedges, Walker, and Pinchbeck. The biggest thing that I'm going to see is I'm looking forward to seeing who pulls the pin on the grenade last, and is the one that really, really makes it work, because there's no pit stop window as far as I'm aware here, Steve.
No.
So they could run to, like, say, if they've got enough fuel, it's like, say, 10 to 15 minutes before the end of the race. They've got enough of a gap to do it, which is what I've got a feeling that if Kevin Critchley does that and pulls away and he's on new rubber, he doesn't have to put so much fuel. The car's going to be lighter, a bit more balanced, a bit more poised. The grip's going to come to him earlier in some respects, because obviously, let's not forget the Boxer engine on the flat six in that Porsche will be over the rear wheels. So having that weight there gives an advantage to the rear tyres. The grip can come a bit more prevalent there. But then you look at cars like the Mercedes, where it's got a longer snout, 6.2 litre V8. It's over the front of the car, and that's going to give the front end more grip, and the rear is going to need a bit more time to build the temperature in. So it's one of one and 500 of another. But still, if he can pull that off, Kevin Critchley, he's done a really good job to get the win here at Silverstone.
Yeah, I mean, I think, stand by what I said earlier, I think these guys that haven't pitted now, and certainly the top 7, and I'll include Chris Pinchbeck, I think they're just going to jump in for fuel, and some of them you may even see them jumping in with 1 lap to go just to do a splash and dash, as it were. Literally 1 litre of fuel and go, so the tyre, I don't think they'll take new tyres.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, if they've been... Because one of the things is that we were hitting the high 156s in qualifying, and now as the race has gone on, we're now at 23 degrees track temperature Celsius, 18 degrees Celsius air temperature. The server is saying 11:55, so probably by my reckoning we'll have a finish time of around 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so they'll be ready for lunch or ready for their dinner if they haven't had it already for those racing with us at the moment. 25 minutes on the clock remaining, but yeah, it's quite interesting, as you say, that it could be just a briefest of splash and dash. Put 2-3 litres of fuel in, get the car around Silverstone. I mean, I was looking when Clifford Roberts was using the Porsche, he was using around 3.8 to 4 litres a lap, I think, if memory serves me correctly. So even if it's a splash and dash, just to sort of mitigate circumstances, even if they put 5 litres in and they've got 3 in the tank, that's still going to give them a lighter fuel load than anybody else. And if they've got like a 32 to 33 second pit stop time, just by doing the splash and dash, they're going to come out pretty evenly. And if there's a car in front that's got, say, an extra 10 litres worth of fuel, here comes Chris Pinchbeck, as we were just talking about him, into the pits. And here is Kevin Critchley. Kevin goes past the pit lane. They go across the start-finish line. Now onto lap number 48 completed, onto lap number 49. So we will hit a half century well and truly, probably around 60 or so laps, I would imagine, just by the pace that we are setting at the minute, effectively. So, yeah, I think Kevin's looking good pretty much at the moment, when you say, Steve.
Absolutely. I mean, Kev's just done a 58.4 there, so still a very respectable lap time for this stage in the race. I mean, obviously, let's not forget about, it's not only about the car degradation and wear, it's about the fatigue on the drivers. As we said, they've been going for over an hour and a half now, and they'll start, the concentration levels will maybe start to slip a little bit for some of them. It's difficult, you know. It's even in the longer endurance races with driver swaps, you're not always doing 2-hour stints. It's usually an hour to an hour and a half, so it's a long time to be focused 110%, because I think most of these drivers have treated this as just a sprint race.
Yeah, I think that's what Le Mans has really been for the 24 hours these days. So as you can see on the left-hand side of your screens, from 8th to 23rd, they have all completed their pit stops. So as there is Roberto Santoro from Rinaldi Racing, I think just about to come into shot here. Or that might be the case. No, he's in the pits. So we're just getting thank you, Mr. Mike Yao, our broadcast director from Simply Race, really helping us. So head to simplyrace.co.uk, check out any offers if they've got them. They are doing 20% off at the moment, so you can head to there. Just type in Simply Race, you'll find them on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. They've been really big help in bringing this all together. There's Stephen Haley now into P5, and what's more, he's only just over 19 and a half seconds off of James Hartnell for P4. So Stephen's really come alive a bit more in the latter stages in the Hitotsuyama Audi. And he's going to start catching now. He's looking actually a little bit more closer than I think we both thought. Oh no, Steve goes wide as I say that and takes his curse from me. Sorry, Steve. Sorry, my bad.
Don't worry, I'll tell him it was you at the end of the race. Don't worry.
No. Just say to him, look, the commentator's curse. It was not me. And I go.
No, that was probably Steve reaching over for that lubrication we were talking about earlier.
Yes.
Trying to keep himself fresh. But Steve, known him for a number of years and raced with him. Very, very good friend. But he will not give up. He'll be racing for that 4th place, even 3rd place. But he'll definitely be on for that 4th place. He will not back off until the checkered flag's dropped.
Yeah. So I'm just doing a brief calculation here. So I would probably estimate we're going to hit around 60, anywhere between 62 to 64 laps if Kevin keeps up the pace that he is. But obviously he's got to have a pit stop. So in many respects, to hit what's going to be very, very shortly 50 laps in the books for Kevin Critchley, and he's really kept everyone at bay. No one's really been able to bother him at this particular moment, apart from Archie Clifford-Roberts, who was at one point 0.7 of a second behind him.
We've got Diop making a move now. Sorry to interrupt on Walker. He's putting him under pressure. He's just been flashing the lights there, and he's trying to get past on him. Although track position-wise, Walker's still got to make his pit stop. So effectively, they're not really racing for position at this point, as I think Aaron just shoots into the pits there. Yeah,
that was a cut across and a half there. I was like thinking, hang on, don't. Look, we know you've had incidents, Aaron, but please don't cause one. Please. So the 99 Audi from Aaron Walker now makes his final mandatory pit stop, which will leave us Kevin Critchley, Archie Clifford-Roberts, Chris Crossman, James Hartnell, Stephen Haley, Dave Hedges, who's now up into P6 in the 88 Audi. That's great to see that Dave has been moving his way slowly but surely up the order.
Yeah, cause I'll be honest, I expected Dave to maybe qualify a little bit better than he did, but absolutely fantastic drive to get back up to sort of 6th place as it stands at the moment. Obviously, he's got another pit stop to do, but he's still going to have a very respectable finish, I would say, possibly even top 10.
Yeah, who knows? As we have 19 and a half minutes to go of the 120-minute race here for Simsport Racing, Assetto Corsa Competizione, Season 3, Round 2, here at the home of British Motor Racing, Silverstone.
I think there's going to be a great battle, 9th and 10th place. Lucas Kakos looking at the differentials there, and Jordan Ruddock at 1.5 seconds between them, and they've both completed all their pit stops, and that's 2 drivers that have really made their way through the field this evening.
I mean, especially with Jordan's misfortune, having the initial incident with Aaron Walker, and then Aaron having another incident, which was not of his doing at all. Aaron's a bit on the back foot. I mean, he's running P12. He's 3.2 seconds behind Gavin Utley in 11th, who's in the M Sport League. But I think really that we could see, with the way things are going, Steve Hindon looking very racy in the 40 Aston Martin. He's only a second off of Aaron. So Aaron might have to watch himself, because 12th place in this race gives you 36 points, and it's 32 if you're in the position behind. So Aaron will really have to put on a defensive masterclass in the dying moments of the race, as Jeffrey Wolf looks like that's Regan Mitchell just up ahead. So it's Ferrari versus Mercedes, so Maranello versus Falterbach.
Yes, good to see Regan's got himself back into the points now, so he's into 17th there. Just hopefully can defend this position and hold on to it.
Yeah, that'll give him 16 points in the bag after a good start, which saw him take 8th in the standings. Obviously, he's running under the RPM Racing banner, but also the team livery in game Black Falcon. 39 points coming into this round, and he was only just 3 ahead of Sreko Novakovic, running in the Pistonheads Ferrari 488 GT3. But Jeffrey Wolf, I'm very impressed here. He's 20th last time out, and he only scored 3 points. But he's on for a really, really good, solid finish, and I'm hoping that if he gets if it is, he's 18th at the moment, so he's got effectively 12 points, but if he gets past Regan, that will be another 4 in the bag to him, and that will put him slightly up the order.
Yeah, I mean, that's it. Like you say, there's a points differential all the way down, and it's not just a 1-point difference, it's 4 and 5 point differences, so it's worth fighting for every single position all the way through the field, just to amass as many points as you possibly can.
Yeah, very much the case. Now, if memory serves me correctly, this is actually the first appearance of Kevin Critchley, because he wasn't with us last time out at the Nurburgring. So with the way things are standing at the moment, if Chris Crossman stays where he is right now, which will be P3, that'll put him on a total. Well, he'll literally double his points tally to 151 points. And that was not done with a calculator there, ladies and gentlemen. I've got about 5 or 6 different sheets of paper. I've got the Silverstone track layout in front of me. I've got the Simsport Championship Series points, the championship table. But then this will really put Kevin into a really, really good place, because it'll put him in the top 5 in the standings approximately. Here we go. 16 minutes on the clock. Haley and Hedges both in the pits for their mandatory pit stops. So that means we will have just Hartnell, Crossman, Clifford Roberts, and Critchley. And I'm wondering, is Archie possibly going to think of an undercut here? Because with only 13.1 seconds in the bag, Critchley's lead and potential victory could be under threat here.
It could be, but I think it'll take a mistake from Kevin going into the pits. Like I said, I do believe they're just going to take fuel. So, as much as I want to see that battle, and I'd love to see a battle, I think Kev's just driving for the win now, and he's probably watching the gap. And Archie may have even settled for that second place at this point, not wanting to push too hard. Maybe, I'm not sure. They obviously like to prove commentators wrong, don't they? But that's my thoughts on it at the moment.
Well, the proof is in the pudding, and we'll find out very, very soon indeed. But then looking, 151, this is a predictive score, of course. Obviously, this is before anything is declared and ratified by Simsport Racing in terms of the championship standings. So after this, effectively, Chris Crossman will possibly lead the standings on 151. And then I look at Archie Clifford Roberts. He's on 57 points as of the Nurburgring. And then he will get 88 for finishing second. And that will put him on, that will close the gap. That will close the gap on Chris Crossman, because Stephen Haley is currently in P9. That is 48 points, and that will drop him out of second position. So if I just do...
We've just got Jordan Ruddock 0.3 behind Kakos now, and really pushing for taking that position away from him. He's sort of dinking and diving around, but he's following him onto the start-finish now.
Yeah, so as I was saying, the gap between Chris Crossman and Archie Clifford Roberts at the end of this race, if it finishes as it does right now, is 6 points. 151 to Chris and 145 to Archie, going through to the double sprint race format at Misano in a couple of weeks. And considering the fact that Chris Crossman had a 9-point lead over Stephen Haley after the Nurburgring, so effectively... Archie has really done a number on Chris, and Chris has thought, where has this Audi come from all of a sudden? He's now going to have to think, I'm really going to have to hustle in these 2 sprint races at Misano in a couple of weeks' time.
2 sprint races with 30 plus cars, 30 minutes. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be intense.
Yeah, I'm really, really looking forward to it, because from my perspective as a karting commentator, when you deal with 36 karts on, let's say, a 1,360 metre circuit that I possibly might have been commentating on this weekend, had the travel restrictions been lifted a bit earlier. I did 24 races back in early February, and I've never felt so broken in all my life, because it was consistent. Okay, next one's out. And it's 3 minutes before the 5 minutes after the last one's gone. I've gone, how many karts have we got? Oh, 36. Oh, so you're looking, and then you realise how many races you've done in a weekend. And I think that was the most I've done in one weekend. 36 races, along with 8 different qualifying sessions. So to come to do something like this, it's a bit more relaxing on the vocal cords, if I'm honest with you. As Ruddock still battling away with Karkosh through into Luffield. They're going to come out of the corner. Now, Jordan Ruddock has been the one that's really been putting the tactics into play here, and these two are battling over position. So P7, and that is for 56 points on the board here. Jordan Ruddock in the tow of Lukas Karkosh as they fly their way through into Cops, down towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel.
Wonder if Jordan will be looking to get a good run through here and then take him down into Stowe and Vale, as he has done previously on the last 2 overtakes we've watched him make.
Yeah, going into club. That's where his sweet spot's been at Ferrari.
Yeah.
Let's be completely truthful about here. As they come down the Hangar Straight, heading down towards Stowe, he's about 3 to 4 car lengths behind. So I don't think on this particular occasion, but if he gets late up in the braking zone, probably not as, that would probably be as late as he dare. As Karkosh runs a little bit wide coming out of Stowe into Vale, he can't make it yet. So I think really he's possibly got another 2 laps before that move can really, really work. And if he does that, as they say, 3rd time's a charm. And for Jordan Ruddock, that would secure him 7th place in this race. 11 minutes on the clock to go here at Simsport Racing ACC Season 3 Round 2 here at Silverstone. A great battle on our screens with Lukas Karkosh and Jordan Ruddock. Now, we're having a little bit of a replay here, and that is the 667 of Optimum Motorsport and Isalovic again in the wars.
That looked like Reese Wiggins there that was up his inside. Yeah,
Wiggins, I think, just went in a bit too hot. I think, as Alex Wirtz once said, I might have ran out of talent just then. But the thing is that these guys they're coming to the dying throes. And it's far from easy. It's about sort of just keeping consistent, trying to make sure that you hit the apexes, hitting the braking zones, as Karkosh and Ruddock again now come through Luffield through into Woodcote. And again, Ruddock looking really, really well poised. But we're into the final 10 minutes, and Critchley, Clifford Roberts, Crossman and Hartnell, Who is going to be the one that blinks first? That is the main question that really needs to be answered, because who is going to do the last minute splash and dash? Steve, I wouldn't really want to put any bet on who out of that top four will be the last to do so and have that advantage to really go for it gung-ho in the final couple of minutes of the race.
No, I mean, they'll all have the hammer down. They'll be trying to go as fast as they can, obviously, to get those the quickest laps they can, possibly. Because I'm looking at Abdoulaye Diop in 5th and thinking, when James Hartnell makes his pit stop, is that going to promote him to 4th? That even if Hartnell does just a couple of litres splash and dash, it's still going to be close, I believe, obviously with the pit limiter and everything. So yeah, that's going to be one to watch. But I think the others will stay as they are position-wise, but I think 4th and 5th will be close.
Yeah, I think you could also possibly, if Diop gets past Hartnell, what's not to possibly discount the fact that Giotto in the 39 Aston Martin could even factor into 5th, because in terms, I think, what is it, 60, 80 kph pit speed limiter we've got here at Silverstone.
Yeah, and then, I mean, that just throws in the fact that Kev Critchley, Abdoulaye Diop and Giotto are all new. This is their first round, so that's 3 new drivers in the top 5 or 6. So that's great for the season.
Yeah, that really spices things up as Ruddock looks again up the inside of Karkosh, going through into Brooklands and then into the right at Luffield. I don't think he's got it quite as sewn up as he probably might like, Jordan Ruddock, because he's still a little bit further. He's still about the same distance behind he was like the last couple of laps behind Lucas. So Lucas really putting the pressure on to just put in the hot laps in the Lamborghini. But Jordan, nevertheless, is still keeping within 3.5 tenths. So he's within striking distance. Clifford Roberts is the first one to blink. He's now just pitted. So that's going to put him, I think, probably into the clutches. Well, he'll put him ahead of Diop, I think, with the way that the pit stop might be.
Mm-hmm.
So good call there by Archie to be the first one to decide with around 8 minutes to go to decide, right, okay, that's it. I've got about 5 or 6 litres worth of fuel. I'll put 3 in. I'll be good for the rest of the race or something like that. So it's about who's the next one. Who's next that's going to go, yep, me. Me sir, I want more. As in fuel. Crossman, there we go. Crossman's responded. So straight away, the answer has been given that both Clifford Roberts and Crossman have both now made their second and final mandatory pit stop. As on your screens at the top, that is Utley and Haley battling for 9th in the latter stages. And Utley's got a really good run going into club. Is he going to do a Jordan Ruddock here? That'd be crazy if he did, but he thinks better of it. Discretion is the better part of valour. Backs out of it, and I think possibly in the next lap or two. We've only got 6 minutes 50 to go, and 57 laps now will be completed very shortly. As Hartnell now pits. So we've just got one more driver at the front of the field, and what's more, Steve, it is the leader.
Yeah, I think Kev's obviously he's going to come in the next lap or two, and that's got to be the limit, and he's going to do a splash and dash. I think he's got the win in the bag, barring any serious errors on his part. Hopefully no speeding in the pit lane, all that sort of malarkey. Let's see how he deals with it. It's still a lot of pressure. He'll be thinking about that as he's going in.
He's in the pits. He's just pitted with around 6 minutes and 10 seconds still to go. But I think he's just left it to the absolute. I think the Porsche might have even been running on fumes as he pulled it into the pits.
Quite possibly, yeah. But possibly timed to perfection for him. He's going to go in there, do his quick splash and dash, and he's going to come back out in the lead quite safely, I think, there. Gav's looking very fruity behind Mr. Haley, putting him under a lot of pressure. Yeah. And Jordan's still up behind Lucas. Station's maintained by the looks of it, though.
Yeah, Gavin is yet to score this time because he actually ended up. He's 22nd on our leaderboard behind Paolo Tempera, who isn't with us this time around. Paolo's had to bow out for this round, but hopefully Paolo will be back. He's the only one that's been running the Team Schnitzer BMW M6 GT3. So, yeah, Gavin looking really, really racy. They're going into Stowe now. He's taking a wider line to sweep into the corner and carry the momentum through the Bentley. And that's one of the good characteristics of the Continental GT3. So they go through into Vale, into Club. He's gone round to the outside again. Late on the brakes goes the number 14. I don't think Club is the perfect opportunistic spot, or maybe not, possibly on the run out, as he's just proven to me right there. As they go, that was a great move there by Gavin, trying to go through the wing complex and flying their way through Abbey. But Gavin yet to score any points on the board, and if he gets P9, that nets him 48 points here at Silverstone. He's going round the outside into Village, and can he get the run into the loop? No.
He's certainly putting Steve under pressure, though. He's wanting that position, and he knows he's got 4 minutes to get the job done. So he's doing his best, but he needs to be careful because Mr. Hedges he'll just come into view now. There he is. Any mistake from these two, and Dave's there to capitalise.
Right, I've noticed something unusual here because it's changed the complexity. Chris Crossman, is that another pit stop? Has he misjudged it, or is there another issue there? Has he misjudged it because he was in the pits just then?
Something's occurred there. He's whether he didn't take fuel or something, and he's just gone in, stopped and gone and made a mistake and not actually allocated any fuel or something, and it's not counted as a mandatory stop.
Yeah, so that's
really
down.
Disappointing. Yeah.
That, you know what this means? That Archie Clifford Roberts is going to be the provisional leader after round 2. That has completely changed the whole dynamic of this race. Chris Crossman now is in P8.
It's still showing him as needing a pit stop as well, which is very strange.
Right. Okay. That is very, very strange indeed. But Chris Crossman, if he finishes in 8th, that will give him 52 points. You add that to 75. That will give him 127. That'll put him 18 behind Archie, provisionally speaking. And if, for some reason, there's an issue with the pit stop post-race, if he gets a penalty, that could even drop him further behind, and Archie Clifford Roberts could be heading into Misano with a comfortable lead in the championship. But obviously we've got to see what happens with the likes of Stephen Haley, Lucas Kakos, Dave Hedges, Aaron Walker. What will be the provisional standings after we have our checkered flag, which is around 2.5 minutes' time, with myself, Alex Goldschmidt, and Simsport Racing's very own Steve Proudley here in the virtual commentary box. Great battling here. That is Wolf and Wardell. Again, that's the battle for what is 16th place on the road. I've really been impressed by Jeffrey Wolf this time around, and he's definitely shown a good credence here. 20th in the standings coming into this round, and 17 points will give him 16. 17th place will give him 16 points, but if he gets 16th, that's 20 in the bag and puts him on 23 after this. So 2 minutes to go on the clock, and we are on lap number 59 here at Silverstone. I'm just wondering, where is our leader at the moment? Steve, can you find him for us?
Yeah, he's approximately 6 seconds in the lead still at the moment. So he's comfortably in the lead. He's just coming to the start-finish straight now to complete another lap. So we're going to get one more lap out of them.
So 60 laps will be the total amount. Here is our leader, Kevin Critchley, in the number 15 Porsche 911 GT3R. It's been an absolutely fantastic performance. So Crossman's pit stop, I've just been informed by Mike Yell that it has been registered. Thank you, Mike, for that. So he is down in 8th place, which in many respects, this is going to change. It's going to blow the championship wide open, even though we are on round 2 out of 10. And down the hanger straight for the final time comes Kevin Critchley. Steve, just hand on heart, a stellar performance from the number 15 Porsche.
Absolutely fantastic. He's just gone from the lights out to the checkered flag. He's not put a foot wrong. Obviously, Archie was putting him under a little bit of pressure at the midway point. He didn't buckle under that. He just stuck to his plan, and he's job done. He's completed it, and he's going to take the checkered flag. Fantastic performance.
Yeah, definitely. And Nenad Mancic says, can you show us where Adam Isalovic is at the moment? Well, he's currently running in 25th place at the moment. He's on the bottom right, as you can probably see on your screen there. There's Joel Diaz, just ahead of Richard Pixley. And then just in quick tow is Adam Isailovic as they go through towards what is going to be Abbey. And as down the Wellington Straight, it's been pretty comfortable for Kevin Critchley. 0 on the timer. We are done and dusted here for Simsport Racing Assetto Corsa Competizioni Season 3, Round 2 here at Silverstone. And through Luffield, exiting out of the corner, second gear, putting the power down, up to third. Through into fourth, round Woodcote for the final time. The checkered flag waves for Kevin Critchley in the number 15 Porsche here at Silverstone by a commanding lead. And through very shortly, when we catch up to him, will be the number 96 Audi of Archie Clifford Roberts, who takes not only second place, but provisionally speaking, the lead in the standings on 145 points. Abdoulaye Diop will very shortly be across the start-finish line, our third place finisher here. And João Diaz very happy, flashing the lights in 23rd, the 26-year-old from Portugal. So it looks like James Hartnell and Nicolas Girato will round out the top 5. Great job by Girato. First performance in Simsport Racing ACC Season 3, rounding out the top 5 in the 39 Aston Martin. We'll speak of the devil, and they do appear. Here is the R Motorsport car. And look how close Kakos and Ruddock are. It's not over yet here, Steve. My goodness. Kakos is fighting for 5th place. Ruddock looks to try and take advantage. Kakos on the inside. Interbrookers for the final time. Kakos might get the move done, or does he? Let's see. Oh, that's close. A little bit of rubbing. Girato runs wide. Kakos to the outside. Ruddock to the outside on Luffield. Can this be 2 abreast across the start-finish line? If it is, I think Ruddock's going to have the run out of the final corner. He does. Oh, he turns him! He turns him on the final corner! Ruddock denied 6th place by Girato for the moment, but I'm sure that might be investigated post-race. Well, but Lucas Kakos. Oh, heart in the mouth, defibrillator on standby. Girato turns around Ruddock on the final corner at Woodcote. Oh my goodness, here's Dave Hedges rounding out the top 10 behind Stephen Haley and Gavin Utley. And Gavin now picks up 48 points for his troubles. So Dave Hedges takes 10th. Oh my goodness, Steve, can you believe that on the final corner? John and Ruddock denied.
Speechless. Yeah, I think the stewards are going to have something to look at for just a couple of incidents this race, just to review and hopefully rectify. And you never like to affect the standings with stewards' decisions, but sometimes they have to be made.
Well, round 2 here at Silverstone. What a job by Kevin Critchley. Absolutely fantastic performances there. And, just how our top 3 have done. Obviously, Archie Clifford Roberts takes the provisional standings in this at the moment. Obviously, Chris Crossman finishing in 8th place. Archie Clifford Roberts having a great job in 2nd. Now leads the championship on 145 points as we head to Misano in 2 weeks' time. The Misano World Circuit's Marco Simoncelli for 2 30-minute sprint races. Steve, just your thoughts about that fantastic race just there.
Oh, it's fantastic. I mean, it's as I say, it's my first time in the commentary booth, so I've got a whole new angle watching it from here and talking about it as we went. I've really enjoyed it. The racing was top notch. There was battles throughout the field. I wouldn't have wanted to be the director on this one, because trying to pick the battles to watch must have been really difficult, because you just had to look at the gaps. And credit to those guys that did have incidents, because they literally just got back on the track, got their head down, and they finished the race. And some very respectable finishing positions from some guys that were a long way down at the start. So credit to those guys.
Yeah, brilliant racing all the way through. Looks like we've got our first interview of the evening, and we've been mentioning him. He's had a lot of screen time tonight as well. Let's have a chat with Stephen Haley. Stephen, a very, very interesting 2-hour race at Silverstone. But you've been circulating in the top 10 all the way through. Obviously, a really good performance in qualifying. But how do you feel after what has been a really tough 2 hours for everybody involved?
I didn't expect to qualify what I did. where I did initially think maybe a top 5 finish I would have been satisfied with. I had a couple of spills, quite a few spills. For some reason, for the tyres, temperatures were all over the place, and I thought I'd got them right for the first pit stop, but when I came in to do the pits, as I came out, I realised that I'd got a pit limit bug issue, which wouldn't release me properly, and then the tyres again weren't optimum, so it was just a case of doing the best I could, finish the best.
Yeah, and then now we head over to Misano for a double 30-minute sprint race format for next time out. You looking forward to that one?
If I could dial the Audi, that just wants to kill me. If I could dial it in properly, yeah, I really like Misano. I think it's a cool track. If we can have some good battles, I reckon it'll be pretty wicked.
Brilliant. Well done tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at Misano. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Yeah, thank you.
So I think in many respects there, Steve, it's really just about time to sort of close things out. Thank you very much to everyone watching on the Simsport Racing YouTube channel, the Simply Race YouTube channel, and a few live streams as well. But Steve, we head to Misano in just 2 weeks, the 19th of July, before we then head to Kyalami a couple of weeks later for a 60-minute incursion. Thoughts ahead now that Archie Clifford Roberts has the lead in the championship? It was touch and go with the Chris Crossman was going to be in the top 3, and then obviously he had that issue.
Yeah,
it's really changed things.
It has, and I think there's going to be a lot of chatter in the other Discord room now regarding Chris's issues, because something obviously went wrong, or something wasn't ticked to make it, a valid pit stop. But yeah, and the beauty of the championship is the 2 sprint races. It's 2 separate races, so there's 2 chances to win, and there's 2 pole positions as well. So there's an extra point there with another pole position and another fastest lap as well. So there's lots of points to play for, and there's hopefully there'll be 30 odd cars to get off the grid and get going. So yeah, should be some great fun.
Fantastic. Well, on behalf of myself, Alex Goldschmidt, Simsport Racing's very own Steve Proudley, it's goodbye from Silverstone, and then we say hello to Bella Italia. We head to Misano in 2 weeks. Join us then for 2 30-minute sprint races, which will, in the words of Michael Caine, blow the bloody doors off. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and good night.